Live from Toronto. It's Thursday night. What better time to stream than now? Welcome, everybody. I'm seeing a lot of the regular snobs are here. So great to see everyone. I haven't even put out the link, and I've got a very special guest backstage. Do you all want to know who it is? Or take a guess? So this is what's going to happen. Rich Mitch is always going to have the link, and I'll leave it up to him if he wants to come on or not. I guess, it is a huge time difference between us, so I understand that it's late for him. However, I do want to stream, and I always think about, like, throughout my day that I want to stream, and I'm either thinking do longer streams but less, like maybe a few times a week, or more shorter streams. And let me know what you guys would prefer. I'm talking like I can stream every day but for half an hour, or I could stream twice a week for 3 hours long. Let me know. But I'm going to bring in our special guest, and he come on actually after I had put up the title Rozhadov Diaghilev versus Shipra Paladin. So we might have to save this topic for another day. But anyway, everybody give my very good friend and the best curls in the game, Galen Aetherealist. What is up, my man?
Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint everybody.
This is actually a very fantastic disappointment.
Well, wonderful. No, I'm stoked to be here. You've been asking, you always send me the link, right? And so it was time to join.
I'm glad that you took it upon yourself and said, yes, I'm going to click it without me having to harass you.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it takes a little bit of nerve to like join the live streams, but
Dude,
I love them.
Even for myself, like I do these quite regularly, and even come on now, it's still like it's nerving for me every time I hit that go live. I'm like, oh shit, am I ready? What if I forget to like to say something? What if my mind goes blank, right?
Yeah.
So it's great that I can have like a co-host like Rich or yourself or anyone else that wants to come on, because I'm not much of a speaker. I'm more of a I like talking to people instead of talking to myself. Sometimes I'm talking to myself, and in mid sentence I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, does anybody really care about this shit, or is it just me like yammering on?
People care. People totally care. As much as I love the topic and the hobby, like it's the people that make it special,
Yeah.
I'll admit, like I've cut down on my perfume watching content a ton.
Okay.
And it's not that I don't still love it. Like I love it as much as ever, but it just kind of gets to be like overload. And look, I know I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but like I always watch the streams. I always watch your reviews, because it's like you're the kind of guy that I would want to hang out with. That's like how I make my decisions.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'd love to hang out with you too. We hang out online all the time, but I think we'd be even better friends in person. So what kind of content have you cut out specifically? Like, because I watch a lot of YouTube, I'll admit, but only 10% of it is fragrance.
Really?
I'll be honest, yeah.
Huh. Gosh. I think probably most of what I watch is still fragrance. Like when you're streaming like 2 hours a day, it doesn't really leave much room for anything else.
Right. Well, what keeps, like, 2 hours is a long time to invest in a live stream.
Dude,
How's my mic, by the way? Is it
you
better
sound
than
great. Yeah.
Is it better than Rich Mitch's? It has to
You
be
sound
better than.
fine.
Really?
You sound good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. 2 hours is a lot of time to invest in a live stream. I do it myself. Like, I watch other live streamers. I watch other fragrance live streamers, but I don't watch a whole lot of recorded content. I I like the live streaming, and I think, I can see my channels heading down that way because I spend a lot more time devoted to live streaming than recorded stuff. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't watch his videos anymore because they're 3 hours long." And I hear that, I see that, I understand it. So I try to maintain a little bit of recorded stuff, but I much prefer this. I much prefer connecting with you guys on a live level like this than recorded.
Yeah, 100%. And it's actually just fun, just putting the phone down and doing whatever else I'm doing, for the day, and just like listening to you guys, and then chiming in with, a stupid comment, every 15 or 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And I see your face pop up every now and then. So I figure you're doing what a lot of people are doing. You have us on in the background, and you're either doing work or full laundry or cooking dinner. And it's all stuff that I've been known to do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you, well, shit, you streamed 2 days ago, right? You weren't on
So
yesterday.
I streamed Sunday night and I streamed, I want to say Tuesday. So this is the third stream this week, and it's probably, I've streamed already 7 hours this week, and it'll probably be another 2 hours. That's 9 hours. That's a lot of stream time. So what I'm
Mhm.
asking is, what is more preferable? Like spread out, longer streams spread out, or more streams but shorter, like 30 minutes every day. I share a scent of the day. I have a bunch of people come on. They can share a scent of the day, and we're done, right?
I don't know, man. I think you should do. I think you should do what moves you.
Hmm.
You know, like for a 3.5 hour stream is pretty intense. But like I know people love just like listening in.
Yeah.
So you know when to call it. You certainly have a whole lot more stamina to a whole lot more tolerance for this kind of stuff than most people.
You
Like
got
you'd make a great like if you had like a daily podcast, man, people would probably eat it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good podcasts out there as it is, but it's stamina that you got to build up. It doesn't just happen, right? Galen, do you want to give us your scent of the day? What's up, Joe? I'm just gonna say
Sure,
hi to a couple of people here.
sure.
Christo, I don't know where Christo is, but I hope he's well wherever he is. I hope he's around. Maybe he's just kind of like lurking. I don't know. But shout outs to Christo.
Yeah.
You've
Christo,
met Christo before, haven't you? You guys
I,
hung out.
yeah, he came to Portland a little over 2 years ago, and we spent a couple days hanging out. It was awesome. Like that guy is so nice.
Yeah.
He is so cool. And yeah, I had a good time with him. Like we did some record shopping, we did some perfume shopping. He had a couple beers while I watched him drink a couple beers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went out with Thomas one day. It was fun. Like I had a really good time with him. Like I hadn't met him yet, and we kind of talk on like these live streams or whatever, and I'm like going, should I let him stay at my house? I go, I'm not gonna let Christo stay at my house. I should have totally let him stay at my house. Like he's that kind. Like I totally should have. He
Yeah.
probably would have passed on the offer, but
Yeah. I think there was a couple of nights where we got a little bit rowdy, and I thought maybe I should look, and I would have had no problem. Like, you can stay here. I got lots of room, right? There's enough beds, and we can change the sheets, and you can have fresh sheets. But it just never came to that. If it did, I'd have no problem, right?
yeah.
And I thought if it did, it would have got a lot more rowdier than it did, than it was.
So anyway, you asked about scent of the day, and
Mm,
like I don't know, it's like the start of March, so I've been kind of thinking about where I want to go, and I think Rich Mitch is starting to rub off on me. Like all of that huge haul that I got from Enchante, I'm finally starting to wear these things on a relatively frequent basis, and this isn't from there, but it's sort of the same kind of like lineage.
I think he's
So
rubbing off on a lot of people. He is an influencer, whether he wants to believe it or not.
he
He is a
totally.
bona fide influencer, and his channel is growing quite fast. I tell you, he's not far from 1,000 subscribers.
So Heritage,
Let me blow up
EDT.
your lovely curls.
Wait, famous YouTuber said I need a haircut. Actually, I probably do. But Heritage, EDT.
Okay.
That was the pick today. It was the pick yesterday. I think the last time I was on your stream, I was talking about this.
I love Heritage, and I actually got a bone to pick with famous YouTuber, and I'm going to pick it right now because I purchased something off of his recommendations, and I just finished bitching to Rich Mitch about it. And he called something the greatest patchouli fragrance ever. And as a patchouli lover, I was like, okay, I gotta get it. And I went. I've had this for 2 weeks and I've kept my mouth fucking shut this whole time. But I've just kind of like, meh. Like, I was like so disappointed. Famous
Yeah.
YouTuber, I want my fucking money back. Like, what happened?
Rich, I want my money back.
You got it too.
I do. I do. You know,
I want my money back. I want my fucking money
I
back.
want my fucking money. No,
Refund.
it's okay. It's
It's
good.
okay. Yes, I'll give it that. And I thought, all right, maybe my bottle's gone flat. It's got to be 25 years old, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that they were probably making these up until maybe 10 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how old they are, but I mean, it's a good perfume. But people have asked, I've got some friends who've been like, "Do I need to get moods?" And I kind of go, "No, I don't think you do." Like, I mean, you bought the Gianfranco Ferret, but
Yes.
that
And I
is
thought
a
when I bought it, because okay, first of all, I like my bias is I'm not into Italian perfume. And I bought Fair off Thomas's recommendation, and I thought I wasn't gonna like it. But first wearing it, I was like, holy shit, this is really good. Like, it's good. And when I've worn this a couple times, it's just like it doesn't move me. It's nice, but it's not something that I would consider a greatest patchouli. No offense, Duncan, but it just doesn't work for me.
I, I'm with you on that, but I'm
Like
also kind of
when I
thinking,
want patchouli, I want some like patchouli is an aggressive note, and I want teeth, right? What you shown earlier to me, Heritage, I think that's a great patchouli, right? It's a good representation, but it's not straight up. There's way more to it than it's not the definition of patchouli, but it's a fantastic patchouli perfume.
sure, yeah, yeah. Moods is it's not as patchouli dominant as I think I would prefer it to be. Kind of reminds me of like the older vintage versions of like the Givenchy Gentleman, and it's okay. I think that I'm certainly not giving up on it, right? But it was not an instant love, but like that Ferret, that Gianfranco Ferret,
Yeah,
that is a
it's
phenomenal piece of
it's
work.
it's good. It's a good citrus fragrance, and I generally don't like citrusy perfumes, but it has a brilliant citrus top to it. Let me ask you, why did you have that bottle of Moods out with you? You obviously wanted to talk about it.
Well, I'm sitting at my computer, and I had been like I had said, I was trying a whole bunch of stuff, just kind of that had been in the collection for I don't know the last 6 months, and I had totally been ignoring Moods, so I think I actually wore it. I wore it yesterday. So yeah, so Moods was a recent wear.
Mm.
So Moods was a recent wear. I got the Valentino Vendetta Pour Homme. That was another recent wear.
I don't know that. Is that
This is
new
good.
or old?
No, this is all kind of like, this is like early 90s, I think. But another kind of great, you know, fougere, I mean, they're all kind of in the same sort of lineage, lavender, geranium, oak moss, some patchouli,
They all kind of
probably.
do the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this was something else that I hadn't worn in ages, and this was like the perfume today. It was Maxim's Pour Homme.
See, that's another one I'm hearing quite a bit about lately.
I'm not old enough to remember this, but like apparently it was like a restaurant in Paris. They they put out their own perfume back in the 80s. I mean, it again, right? Another totally solid perfume.
I did actually bitch to Rudy tonight about moods, but I didn't mention anything about the famous YouTuber. I just said, like, do you like it? Like, can you tell me what you like about it? Because I'm lost, I'm lost. Hold my hand and lead me, direct me, because I'm not feeling, you know. My nose is broke. Possibly. I'm going to blame it on my bottle going off.
I think that's fair. I'll blame that on mine too.
Mm.
I'll blame it on me just having no taste.
Right. Right. Or we can just say like it falls apart in the base, right?
Exactly. It gets really cheap.
Falls apart in the base.
All
When you
those,
don't
all
know
those
how to
big.
describe it or you don't understand something, just say it falls apart in the base like everybody else, right?
I would never. I would never say that.
No. No. No.
Huh.
How do you feel about civet?
Um.
Like real or synthetic? I don't care. Like I want to know like how do you feel about what civet tries to do?
I think for me, civet is far scarier on paper, like in concept, than it is in reality. It's
I agree. But I think it's best used when it's restrained, not
sure.
overdosed. And I think that goes for almost everything. Everything should have some sort of restraint to it.
Yeah, yeah, and I certainly don't have a problem with civet. I don't really have a problem with what's the other one? What's the one that's like greasy? Castoreum.
Right, castor. Castor is
Man,
actually very I find castor very resinous. Like gasoline. When you smell gasoline, it's
uh-huh.
not smooth, and that's how castor is for me as well.
You know what it makes me think of is dried cold bacon fat.
Right?
There's just something kind of like greasy. Like
Greasy.
it's like the kind of like shit you can't get off. It's like you don't want to touch it.
Well,
But
castor is a gland, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
It's secreted from a gland, almost like civet.
Yeah.
I know they're both like from dirty parts of the animal.
I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to judge what other people possibly think of those sorts of ingredients,
Mm.
like I just kind of sometimes wonder if I'm like totally over the top, just
Do,
like stinking up a storm and people are like walking out.
do you think frag heads are bonkers for wanting to smell like cat urine and beaver glands?
No, I don't think so.
It's part of the art, right?
It totally is. You know what? I actually get positive feedback. Everybody smells differently. I mean, not like the way that, I mean, just people are built, like what you smell and what I would smell, right? If we're standing at the same place, sniffing from the same tester, it's like our impressions, the way that our brains are probably processing those molecules is totally different. And then you filter it through your experience and your memories. It's like
Past
it,
lived experiences. Yeah.
I can imagine it being very difficult to, to objectively say Eugene's experience is exactly the same as mine. But there's stuff that I'll wear that I just go, this is fucking disgusting. And it's like people go, you smell really good.
Right. Right. I've been with frag heads where we spray something new to both of us at the same time, and I'll smell something. I go, "Yeah, this is exactly what it is." And the person next to me will go, "I smell this," which will be completely different than my perception, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I get that too now." Right
Mhm.
now,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but sometimes it takes two people to come together and share like their experiences.
I think one of the things that's really intimidating about this hobby, right? And it's totally a hobby for me, right? It's like I don't really have any ideas of doing this like full time, but
Any of it?
no, yeah, no. But
Creating
the
your own brand?
no, I'll be a creative director for you.
Okay, maybe
Yeah,
I'll hire you one day.
but I've actually being able to like pick out notes and being able to pick out accords and like it it can be totally intimidating, but actually getting to go like going to like a perfumer's studio and just like getting to like smell the things that like they're making, or some of the different ingredients, and actually have that sort of interaction on like what you're experiencing, what you're smelling, what you're feeling. It's super fun. Like when I went to Shelley Waddington's studio.
Tell us about that.
Oh God,
Let me
so
let me try and link your channel. But go on,
yeah,
tell us about.
so I haven't really talked about it. I don't think I've actually put out a video since I made that, but I did a it's like a 9 minute like kind of like mini documentary with Shelley Waddington, who is a perfumer here in Portland, and she has a brand called En Voyage, and she's also done perfumes. She did a couple for zoologists. She did civet and hummingbird, um, and she's done some other stuff. But this guy who runs the American Perfumer, which is it's like a retailer here in the US, and he also does like limited perfumes. He connected us. He was like, "Hey, I would love for you to make more of these. I've got something coming out with Shelley. I'll put you two in touch." And so I made this kind of like short documentary with her, and I got to hang out in her studio for about, I don't know, 5 hours. I had to go back like 2 days later because I needed more footage.
Wow.
Um,
Did you
but
have fun?
oh, it was great, dude. It was so fun. It was awesome.
Was it just the two of you?
Yeah, it was just the two of us. She has this, her studio is in her house, right? But it's also like a place that if you get a hold of her and you want to come and like, you know, have a perfume made, or you want to, try out her line, that you can go and visit. But we hung out. I interviewed her for like an hour. Um, got a whole bunch of footage, and then she's like a total introvert, and she does not like having visitors. But dude, I could not get her to like stop talking. Like she was so excited. It was like, check this out. I've got, she was making all of these different accords. She was, creating a perfume for like this big competition that's, being run by, one of these big ingredient houses. I mean, she was just like busting out dozens and dozens of, you know, uh, perfumes and ingredients. I mean, just like grabbing bottle after bottle after bottle and just kind of putting it in front of my nose. And like everything was freaking amazing. It was so good.
It must have felt like a kid in a candy store. Did you learn a lot of things that you didn't know before, or was everything kind of like, okay, yeah, I get that?
You know, the things that I don't know could fill many libraries many times over, right? Like I
Right.
don't, I really don't know a whole lot, right? I think what's so exciting about, I mean, just this hobby in general is that, you know, um, curiosity can be rewarded. Um, and at least with her, you know, it was, I certainly didn't know much about her story, right? And much about like, just kind of like you know, the difficulties of independent perfumery, like basically being totally self-taught and having to kind of like figure everything out for yourself, right? And shit, I obviously I wouldn't even be doing this, right, if it wasn't for like the wonders of the internet, right? But she was like doing this stuff decades before the internet became a thing. You know, and so she had to like track down all of this stuff herself, right? And be totally um you know, self-motivated, which was really cool. I mean, just to hear about. The other thing that she talked a lot about, and I ended up cutting it from the video, was the introduction of um, synthetics,
Mm.
right? Actually being able to finally get access to synthetic molecules, which I guess up until probably like the late 80s, early 90s were completely out of the question for anyone, you know, basically working from a home studio. Um, you know, she talked about, I think just sort of the difficulties of working as an all natural perfumer. You know, the difficulties of being able to construct, you know, different, you know, accords, or you know, different like kind of like you know, florals, or you know, green notes without the use of synthetics. Uh, She'd also mentioned, and hopefully I don't think I'm being too untoward here, you know, just sort of a lot of the the pushback that she got from her peers, you know,
Higher up?
people that were like, I'm a natural perfumer.
Ah,
I've always been a natural perfumer. I will never use synthetics, right? And it's just, and she was just
right.
like good for you, but like
Did she lose friends doing that?
she seemed to hint at that. I mean, she didn't name any names, but yeah, I think
Give
that they
us
were.
names, Galen. We want names.
I
We
don't
want
know them. I don't
gossip.
know. Uh,
So you have a thing for indie perfumers, I can see. Like you've done I haven't, I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to watch this one yet, but I did watch your documentary with John Beeble and I thought it was fantastic. It was like I was captured by every moment. Tell us about, do you like your love for filmmaking? Is it filmmaking or you just like to record people talking about perfume, because they're obviously very well made videos and you can tell that you've spent a lot of time making them and editing them before you release them.
so what I think is so like the thing that I really love about just perfumery in general is I think that the creative aspect of it, you know, and I've always been, and since I was young, you know, really into music, you know, visual arts, movies, those sorts of things. And I think when I finally realized that like perfume was made by actual human beings,
What
I'm
did
like,
you think
going,
it was made by?
I have no fucking clue.
Because I kind of went through the same thing. I'd go into the department store and be like, this is just a random smell. This isn't supposed to smell like horse saddle and blueberries, right? It's just like, it's just a smell, like a random thing. I had
Oh,
no idea there was so much art and craftsmanship and dedication that gone into a single perfume.
oh, dude, yeah, 100. Like I figured that my bias was everything on a department store shelf has been engineered to just simply smell good
Yeah.
and to project some sort of desirable image to whoever it is you're trying to impress.
Right.
Um, and so I think once I kind of was like, there's there's people that make this shit, right? Like, and they're making like weird stuff.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of like I like always loved music, right? And independent music has been sort of like a huge thread throughout, my life for probably the last, I don't know, 35 years. And so I think just doing a little bit of research, actually watching a lot of YouTube, finding Fragrantica, beginning to like search, just track down people's names and, find out like, it's like, this stuff is really interesting. Like there's these people who are, they may not be, trained, they may not have chemistry degrees, they may not have, like that French pedigree, but like they're just doing it,
Mm.
And I loved that. It was just so fascinating to me. That, with the internet, and certainly, places like Fragrantica and what's that other one?
Bass notes.
No, there's that one.
Profumo.
No, they basically they always give every single review of theirs, like they give stuff away. Safflebon.
Oh, right. You got to
Safflebon.
pay. I heard that. I don't know if I should be saying, but yeah. Okay. Right. Yes. Let's not go there. But
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks for catching me.
no. Yeah, I mean, you go to Safflebon, it's like everything's right. Everything's being given away, right? Everything's a giveaway, and they've never said anything bad, you know.
Right.
But no, I found it so fascinating, just that people were doing this kind of stuff, and I think I've just wanted to learn more. I don't really have like a huge desire to really make it. But I'm certainly interested in, I think, just the creative process and like connecting with people and sort of learning new things. And it's really exciting. It's really cool.
But you like, I mean, the way you show it in a documentary style in the film and how you get the perfumers to open up and talk about the things they do. I'm sure the Shelley video is just as amazing as the Johns. But what is it about that draws you? Like, why do you find yourself dedicating so much time to do that?
I don't think I told you this. Maybe I did. But like,
tell us.
So, Shelley was like, she's like, I've got some time, right? I'll give it, I'll give it to you, but like, it needs to be pretty expeditious. And like making stuff like videos takes a ton of time. But essentially, I went and did like a 1-hour interview with her, and the audio was totally fucked. It was ruined. It was like wrecked. I mean, I was able to salvage it, but I'm like going,
what happened? What did you do to it?
You know what? I had to like rig up a microphone, and it wasn't grounded. Like, so it was right. It was actually, it was like, there was radio interference on the audio track, right? Because I basically, it was probably like exposed to bare metal in a way, right? It wasn't, so it's like, I have this hour-long conversation with her that was like, you could hear like Led Zeppelin in the background. Like there was a point where she's talking and I could hear like Paradise City. I'm like going, oh fuck.
I like Paradise City and Zeppelin, so I wouldn't have mind that. But
Hey,
you might get hit with a copyright strike if you upload that to YouTube. That's the
so
problem.
yeah, but anyways, I know I'm rambling, but the I think the idea of making some of those videos is it's like this is the kind of this is what I would want to watch.
It's a
Right? If
very
I'm going to
high quality video. I mean, compared to what you usually get on YouTube, like I record my videos on a cell phone only because it takes so much time to do it on a camera, upload it, edit it, download it, and then upload it to YouTube again. You
oh
know,
dude.
it could
Yeah.
take 8 hours while my cell phone is done in 45 minutes.
Uh-huh.
The quality isn't as great, but it's like this, right?
It is. Yeah.
It
But I think it's as much as I like reviews, there's only so much that I can take. And at
mm,
least with like the kind of stuff that I think that I would want to make, and I know I don't make very much, right? It's like I would way rather spend 20 hours like sketching out, a great story and trying to put all of these little touches in there, right? That
right.
like really speak to me rather than doing like a sit down in front of a camera and go, okay, I just sniffed this. I'm going to talk about it.
Right. And
I
you
don't,
can,
I don't want to do that.
yeah, and you can definitely tell in your details. It's great. Tell us what was meeting John Biebel like?
Uh, it's terrible. Awful.
Tell us more. What didn't you like about him?
God, this was actually, I mean, it was the same basic concept of,
He's like on the other part of the country from you, isn't he?
yeah, yeah. I was in the Boston area last summer. And so I had just shot him a message and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about wanting to do like a mini documentary, right? Just
Mm,
like kind of like tell a story about you and whatever might be going on with you right now." And so he and I talked, and he had that Perfume gong coming out, and so it was like, okay, well, why don't we just do a sit down interview, right? We'll talk about just sort of your background and your passions, and a little bit about the perfume, and go to your studio and hang out and just kind of see what happens. So he was totally game, which is probably like the toughest thing with all of this is just getting people to say yes.
yeah.
I mean, shit, it's like impossible to get me to show up to one of your live streams,
Mm.
right?
And I've messaged many of perfumers and asking them if they'd like to come on. Like, can I interview them for a live? You'd be lucky if you even get a response
Yeah.
or if
Yeah.
they even open your message.
But, John is one of those guys that's kind of all over the place, right? He's got his hands in a lot of different things, visual arts and music. And I know he does a lot of, high tech work, for his regular job. But he was just like, I'm totally cool with it. Like, yeah, sure. Come on down. So I think that he's used to those sorts of asks, and he's probably done them in the past.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, it was just it all just kind of came together. I drove out to Providence for the day, and God, I was there for probably about 8 hours, and
I thought you'd be hanging out at your second home cottage on what's the resorts up there? Is it Maine or they
Cape
got like a
Cod.
beach areas up there, don't they?
Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Actually, I was on Cape Cod.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
you go. Nice.
Uh-huh. But it's the important thing is when you go on vacation is to let everybody else pay for those sort of things.
Yeah, if you can get away with it. What else is going on in your world, like perfume wise? Are you sampling? Are you buying? Are you discovering? Are you just enjoying what you own? I know you were talking about selling for a while. You were decluttering and not only selling, but you were giving away buckets load of stuff to our other friend Thomas there.
I
Where
was.
where are you at kind of in your journey?
Um, I, I I wish I could say that I haven't been buying anything, and
Mm,
it feels there used to be, there was a period of time where like I'd go to the front porch like every day, and there'd be a box.
I know what that's like.
Uh-huh. It's like once a month now, but I mean, I've picked up a few things. Like I finally got my the last bottle of the one 80s Dave Venustas perfume that I haven't didn't have, Cierge de Lune.
So you have them all now?
I got them all. Had to buy this. It's a
Do you
nice spicy vanilla.
do you collect whole lines?
There's like there's like 8 or 10 from the brand, right? It's not
Not
like
many.
it's not like I'm collecting, Guerlains or anything.
Right, Chanel's,
Okay?
yeah.
It's like 800 there. Um,
Absolutely. But there are people that do, right? They
oh,
want to amass every single Guerlain that they can.
yeah, I that is not me. That's not
Mm.
me. And
It's
then
just impossible, right? Just thinking about it will give you anxiety.
yeah, yeah. And then I got like the new little 15 mil from Nay magazine. It's like a limited edition perfume. This is an Unique Monardo perfume. It's like an apocalyptic freshie.
Mm.
It's
Apocalyptic freshy. I don't think I like the sound of that.
I don't think that you would like it. It's it's intense. Like it's the whole concept behind like the whole like Nay 1+1 is that they have a perfumer from one of like the four big houses connect with like an artist or sort of like a leader in another world. And this is a collaboration with a dancer and choreographer from Paris.
Mm.
And it's basically Anique Minardo's perfume rendition of like Swan Lake.
Oh, that
And,
actually sounds fascinating.
and I don't know about this Swan Lake performance in particular, but apparently it's like uh geared towards there's sort of this like end of the world apocalyptic um environmental disaster theme to it.
Mm.
So there's like this like heavily chlorinated like wet stone smell. It's super musky. It like I was shocked.
Sounds more like leaking oil tanker lake than Swan Lake.
That seems to be sort of the case, but I was like shocked. Like I
Mm.
thought it was going to be iris and leather and a little bit powdery.
Something beautiful, right?
It's very interesting. It's not unwearable, but it's close. It's
All right.
really
How do you feel about, do you like those unwearable niche with that are really, really creative, or do you prefer more wearable things? Like, are you willing to sacrifice creativity for something that's more functional? Like I myself like a nice balance. I like function, but at the same time, I want a perfume to be unique, and I don't necessarily want it to be this wild thing. Where are you? Like, how does that fit for you? What are your preferences steered towards?
you know I really like the wild stuff. Like I
Yeah,
really do. Like I have a deep appreciation for just people kind of being batshit crazy.
right.
But at the end of the day, like I want to be able to wear stuff,
Yeah.
you
But
know?
those are the same things you need to hide in your ceiling tiles and underneath your oven, I see,
Dude,
right? Is there
the thing is I never know what the feedback is going to be. Like I never know.
Right.
Um, I do like those monthly roundups like of what I've been wearing.
Mm.
And so I
So
was gonna
when you're alone by yourself and you know you're gonna spend the day alone, you'd rather wear something that's crazy batshit than something softer.
no, no, no. It it sort of is like it's always what mood strikes me, right? What am I feeling like today? And to
Mm.
be honest, like most of the time, it's things that are relatively subtle, um, somewhat complex, well composed.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean,
I
I have some stuff that's like totally out there that I never touch. Like I
yeah.
just never touch it, and I
I
kind
guess
of wish I did.
I like the same thing, subtle but complex. I like that. I lean more of that than completely outrageous, and I can appreciate those from time to time, but I don't always necessarily want to smell like that.
Yeah, yeah. I rarely do either, but I'm always like surprised at the things that the things that people give me a hard time for.
Hmm.
You know, the other day, like I wore Metallica, right? So Metallica was something I probably wore like 5 to 10 times last month.
Wow, that's a
So
lot.
yeah, well, I mean, I was out of town for a little while, and I took a decant with me, and it was just kind of suited the mood. But like my better half, she just goes, "I fucking hate that." She goes, I hate that,"
Wow.
and it's like
Is it that aggressive? I've
it,
never smelled Metallica.
it's a Guerlain, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it's
So I'd imagine it's not the dirtiest thing, clean.
oh, it it's too powdery.
I
Is
love powders.
the God,
I
what was
love
the
that's
other?
my favorite facet in perfume is powder.
I was told to not wear Sunshine Man the other day.
Do, do you like sunshine?
I do. I do. I can totally understand why it's sort of like
I don't see anything in sunshine that would be like off-putting.
was it lavender, immortelle?
But lavender is like that's what they use in like detergents and everyday household things, don't they? It's so easy to love.
I'm as surprised as you were. But like, and I had said this earlier, right? The other stuff that I'll wear, like what's that perfume? It's called Just Filthy.
I don't know.
It's called Juste, Just Filthy. It's a guy here in the States. I think his name is Jeffrey Dame.
I've
And
heard
it's
of him.
like,
He's from
yeah, it's like
Florida, I think.
it's
He's
like
out
a
of Florida.
it's like a homage to Kuros. And it has what does it have in it? It's got the same aroma chemical that's found in shit, right? It prominently featured. And I've worn that. And people go, that's really nice.
Really?
I go, I cannot deal with this. Like,
Yeah,
oh my God, I smell like a urinal cake.
right. That's weird. I've sprayed Frederick Mall the Night for some people that weren't frag heads and they're like, "Oh, that's really nice." And then I've sprayed like in front of my kids and they're like, "That smells like halitosis. Take that off." I'm like, "Too late. Once it's on, like you got to wear it off. It's got to evaporate."
Yeah.
See, it all goes back to perception and how people see things. Let me ask you this, and I don't want to divulge where you work or what you were doing, but you worked kind of in a place where perfume wasn't accepted. How did you like work around that?
I just quit.
Best answer ever. Yeah,
Just,
buddy.
just quit, everybody. They don't like it, quit. It'll be okay. Trust me. It'll be
Yeah,
all right.
that's it. Is that why you quit?
No. No, for the last I guess 10 years, like I worked in hospitals. I mean, it was mostly like in a like a clinical setting. Like I was never in like an emergency room or, like rarely on like, the floors of like the hospital. But I don't know.
You
It's
told
one
me
of
you
those
were a
things.
surgeon.
No, Jesus, God save us all, man. That would be a disaster.
Right.
Um, I think I probably learned a little bit like the hard way. There were certainly times where people were like,
Take it off.
dude, yeah, like that's,
Cut it out.
I think I wore Nouveau Monde a couple times to work.
Oh shit, that's a heavy perfume. Right.
Yeah.
So did you hear it often? Were you ever reprimanded, or did you get like a note or no?
No,
Okay.
no. I look, I'm an adult. Like if there's people that don't have this option, right? But like if you have a job where people aren't treating you like an adult, right? You probably should find a new job, and I've always been treated, I was always treated like an adult at, most jobs that I've had. So, it was usually a case of like, if somebody made a comment, like they're like, oh, it smells really good. I go, oh shit. Like I'm wearing too much, you know?
Yeah. If it's noticeable, then
Yeah. That's sort of like that's always been sort of the way that I've operated. Like I try to like kind of go under the radar.
I quit. I love that. I want to pull that one day. You know, like my friend, I fucking quit.
Quit. You'll hear from my lawyer, man.
Actually, I got 2 compliments today, at work, of course, and I never even gave my cent of the day.
I think we all know, right? At
Do we?
least the folks on Instagram do.
Where's my microfiber? Damn it! I can't show my bottle without cleaning it.
I've taken to cleaning stuff with microfiber cloths as well.
Here we go. I found my cloth.
Perfect.
I am in Chypre Palatin,
Beautiful.
and it is so damn beautiful. Like, absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I dislike Chypre Palatin. You know, I heard that this was badly reformulated. And every time I hear somebody say, I hate this, I usually wonder, like, it's a nice perfume amongst frag heads. I wonder if they're smelling the reformulated version. And I'm not like, that's what I'm thinking about this, because there's so many people that do love this. I'm thinking maybe I got a bad bottle, because when I got my bottle, there was about like, this is what it came like, basically. There was a huge chunk miss. Oh, yours too? Is yours 100 mil?
No, I don't think so. I think this can't be 100.
Like, I've probably sprayed this 20 times, so I've taken 2 mil out of here. It looks like there's 10 mil missing.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I got a bad bottle. And that's what I wonder when I hear somebody say they strongly dislike a good perfume. It's like, I wonder if they're smelling the same thing. And it's very possible, right, that 2 people are smelling different perfumes.
I don't,
And then it's like, well, okay, maybe you do not dislike it, but how many times have you worn it? Because there's been times where I've worn something once, I'm like, I don't like this. And I'll wear it again the next day. I'm like, I like this a little bit more. It happened to me with Pavarotti when you and Rich and Thomas sent me Pavarotti. I was like, this smells cheap. And then I wore it again. I was like, I like this much more. And then the third time, you're like, this is really nice. Like, I like this. Ooh, thank you, guys.
there's certainly some perfumes like that I actively disliked when I first wore them. Like, I mean, I'm not familiar with Chypre Palatin besides, just having a little Lucky Scent vial a couple of years ago, but like,
I'll send you some, because I'm making a care package for you and Thomas, and I
okay.
will. You're not familiar with it at all?
And it's been years.
And I'll send you some Diaghilev as well.
Okay. We'll also take whatever you've got from your brand as well.
Right. I will send you samples.
100 mil.
I don't have much left even for myself, but I'm familiar with them. I'll send them to you. And then we'll do this video again.
Okay.
Rozhadov Diaghilev versus Shipra Palatin, and I'll have you on for that.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect. Yeah, like Invasion Barbar. That was one that
Are you familiar with Invasion?
I love it. I love
Really?
it. I
I could
love
care
it.
less for it.
I
Like, I
love it.
want to love it too.
Love it. Love it.
What do you love about it?
I, I think it's like the perfect. I think it is the perfect fougere. Like it is the perfect barbershop style fougere. I just think, it's got that from the first moment to the last.
I don't fucking care for it like one bit.
There's so many of those types of perfumes to choose from, and I just think that is the best of them. I just do. It's kind of a perfect balance between all of those things, and some of there's certainly I know I've badmouthed like Boy. I'm
Right.
not.
Yes, yes. Did you hear us coming at you in one of the live streams about Boy? Were you
I
there
think
for that?
so. I,
Lucky.
I'm not a big fan of Boy.
I
I will
love
admit,
Boy.
like I've tried to really like Caron Pornome, and I
Canon porno.
find that mildly nauseating as well.
I
Um,
much prefer Third Man to Buronome.
yeah, yeah.
But
I
go
guess
ahead.
with I think with Invasion Barbara, kind of that balance of the lavender, vanilla, and musk is like perfect.
You know what my deal is? It's too smooth. And again, this is like I don't get it doesn't really advance anywhere. It feels kind of linear and it's super well rounded that I have a problem like discerning what is what here.
It,
Do you find that as well?
you know what I did specifically with this the other day was sprayed it on some paper because there's like I was going through some of like the note, like the reviews on Fragrantica, and I'm like going, I was like cardamom.
Cardamom, yeah.
I was like, I don't get that at all, like at
Mm.
all.
I'll
And
buy a
on
paper shirt.
paper, it was total. It brought out a lot of different facets that I was not picking up when I wear it. So, but you know what? I totally understand. I mean, everybody's got their own thing.
I tell you what, I love like Shipra Palatin, and I take it over this 10 times out of 10. Like I love Palatin. This it doesn't really do anything. Palatin to me is deep, and it unfolds, and it's constantly changing and moving, and it's just so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Invasion of Barbar. I'll keep my eye on this.
All right.
So when I first met you and started following you and stalking you, you were really into I'd consider niche. And lately, I noticed that you've taken an interest in vintage, possibly due to the influence of our friend the Duck and Thomas. Do you have like are you going down that vintage route? Do you find yourself heading there?
You know what? Actually, this kind of goes back to something that you had asked about a little earlier, right? Of sort of where I was at, but I I think I've really been more interested in kind of like delving into the things that I have rather than feeling the need to just constantly acquire new stuff. And you know, I can certainly say that that Rich has had an influence on my interest in a lot of like these like classic Italians from like the 80s and the 90s, the early 2000s. But I think more than anything, this is my opportunity to blow smoke up your ass, is actually you being a huge influence on me by just like simply being like, yeah, I wear perfume that's marketed to women.
Oh, great.
It's like, huh. Well,
Awesome.
if a good looking rebel like Eugene can wear Mitsuko, I mean, maybe I can as well.
Right? Yeah. I don't Man, Mitsuko released today. It's going into the men's department. Guaranteed, right?
Mhm.
It's all woods.
Yeah, yeah.
Men didn't wear perfume 1919 it was released. They didn't wear fragrance.
So I don't know. I think I've been far more interested in kind of developing a few deep relationships rather than kind of like wearing five new things every single day and moving on to whatever's new and exciting. Like I I just can't do that. Like it just gets so old. Like I'm just like totally overwhelmed. I'm easily overwhelmed.
Of discovering new things.
Yeah.
There's just so much out there. And Rich has, I don't know, is Rich still here? I haven't seen him in a while. He must have crashed out. But he's really been on my ass, like very persistent about getting Iquitos. I'm like, what the hell's with this Iquitos? And he literally buzzes me every 30 minutes. He's like, did you get it yet? I'm like, no, dude, I'm at work. 30 minutes later, he's like, did you get it? I'm like, no, I'm still here. And again, like, all day long, Iquitos, Iquitos, go get it. I've never smelt it, but he's like, you gotta get Iquitos. You're gonna love it. It's so up your alley.
He's oh, there he is. I'm sure he's probably right, right? I'm sure he's right.
And then I had a conversation with you guys. I'm like, how much would you pay for Iquitos? And you were like, $4. And I was like, what, per mil?
For everybody in the chat, I said I've never smelled Iquitos, but I hate it.
Who else is still here lurking? Let us know if you're lurking. If you've never commented before, leave a comment. We'd love to know who's all with us. We're harmless. We won't bite. I won't bite. Galen might, but look at him. Wouldn't you want him to bite you? Look at those locks. Galen, what do you use in your hair? Like, how often do you go to the hairdresser?
I haven't had a haircut since November.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Here we go, our comment.
I'm saving
What's
lots
up,
of money.
Boosie?
Saving lots of money. Now,
I work with guys that have their wives cut their hair. And they come into work and they look, I really hope you're not watching, but you guys look absolutely ridiculous. Spend the $20 and go to a barber.
I worked with a guy, and I still I still see him every once in a while, but he's got like his wife I think cuts his hair too, but it's like he's got like his bangs go straight across. It's disturbing. So I don't know, but otherwise, I don't know. I gave away a bunch of perfume to Thomas back in December. There's places I will say for anybody that's got like cheapies that they need to get rid of, right? And they're just collecting dust. I would highly encourage you to find like a social service organization that takes donations of like like consumer packaged goods, right? Like soap, shampoo, like those sort of things, and give them your perfume. They will be so stoked.
Do you ever go into places like that looking for perfume, like those secondhand shops? Here we have Salvation Army. I'm not sure, like Red Cross, is that like a discount shop? Places where you can go and get like discounted clothes and shoes. And I go in quite often looking for vintage perfume, but I've never been able to score anything or even come across any kind of crappy perfume for that matter. Is that something you've ever done?
The place that I donated stuff to, like they actually don't even run like thrift stores, right? They're like basically like, shelters or like social service places, right?
Mm,
So it's not like they're not selling it, right? They're
mm.
like giving it to people who like are, I mean, basically that need it. Well, nobody needs perfume, right? But it was like, at least as like something to give away, like people will be excited. Um, I don't do much thrift shopping. I used to do a ton when I was younger, and it was mostly for like records. And I used to buy a lot of like thrift store clothes, some of which I still have. Um,
So
I've gotten a few things. I got Diorella. I got an old bottle of Diorella. That was probably the best thing that I've picked up at a thrift store.
some James is asking, do you ever look at your collection of full bottles and think, yeah, I don't need any more perfume right now? Every single day, I'm like, I do not need, like, just from the things that I bought last year alone could take me probably to the end of my life. And it's a thought that is constantly going through my mind. But having such great friends like Thomas and Galen and Rich, I cannot help myself. They like when I have Rich telling me every 30 minutes to go get Iquitos, how can I not, right? Like, I feel like I'm missing out. I'm going to miss out on the best perfume in the world. And yeah, absolutely. I know I have enough, but this is just part of it. I enjoy getting new perfumes every once in a while, to treat ourselves. Like, I'm definitely worthy. I'm worth it. Why not, right? And I would much rather treat myself with a new perfume, excuse me, than, let's say, a new sweater or jacket or pair of shoes. How do you feel, Galen? Because I think you're similar, very similar. I got a frog in my throat. I feel
You
like
need
you're very
you need to
similar.
hydrate.
I do need to hydrate. I
Mhm.
do. Give me a moment, but
Yeah, let's pause whilst you hydrate. There we go. Um, I have a totally addictive personality. Like I want constant stimulation, you
are
know?
you joking or serious?
Oh, I'm totally serious.
Because you're a fucking comic, like, in disguise.
No,
Behind.
I have a totally addictive personality. And I think probably a lot of people, right? It's like that feeling of just acquisition. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. Like if it's something that flips the switch for me, right? Whether it's, perfume or records or, food or drink or, just something that's going to give me like that temporary relief. Dude, I love it. The problem is it's like when that shit shows, like you get the dopamine hit, right? The stuff shows up, you go, that's good. You put it on the shelf and then you never touch it again. Then you move on to the next thing. And I don't know. I think I'm much better than I used to be, right? But this is like a pattern that like has repeated itself for decades.
Well, it's something most humans struggle with, right? They're all looking to feel good and they're all looking to avoid pain and suffering. It's the basis of every human. We all
Uh-huh.
want to feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we can't internally, we look outside to add something. And
Yeah.
usually purchasing something fills that void. And I
Purchasing is
guess
certainly the easiest thing.
and I guess for not just you and I, but the majority of the people here, it's turned into perfume because it's such an easy thing to love.
Yeah. I think Thomas was over here probably the last time that he was here. And I think one of the things that we had been talking about, right? He had made the comment of, he's like, I really enjoy missing out, right? There's a certain pleasure in just like kind of going, new Arish Lador, I'm gonna let it go by, right? Just not even gonna worry about it. And I don't know. I'm not sure there's things that I'm like, I'm delighted that I own, right? But this is gonna start sounding kind of sad. So get ready, everybody. But like a lot of my personality has been sort of shaped by the shit that I buy, right? You know, when people are like snobs about, oh well, oh I wouldn't wear that shit, and it's like there's probably more to life than just how you spend money,
Mm,
and I'm as guilty as anybody else. But the I mean, even just recently, I was like wanting to buy something, right? It was like there were like three or four things like on fragrance net. I'm like, oh my god, I know this. I know that I've got samples of these. I should just buy them, right? And actually just pausing for about 12 hours and just talking through it with somebody, I go, oh, I got the dopamine hit. I saved $400, right? The feeling is past,
mm.
you know?
I feel that quite often, and I'll sometimes a feeling will come up for me, and I'll sit in it. Like I've taken up the I don't know what you would the practice, the habit of fasting. It's actually it's gone downhill since Christmas because you know what happens at Christmas. But I like to fast, and there's times where I get pangs where I'm like, I'm gonna go eat. Like, why am I doing this to myself? But then I'll stop for a moment and I'll sit in it and I'll go, give it 10 minutes. And I do. And after 10 minutes, you forget all about it,
Mhm.
right? It passes. And buying perfume is sort of like the same thing. There's times where like, I'm bored. I should go to the mall and like get that perfume that I wanted. And again, I'll sit in that and I'll give it time. And after a few minutes, like perfume's a little bit heavier than fasting. It's like it goes away, but then the feeling will come back up. Like within an hour, I was like, oh, I feel uncomfortable. There's some
Mhm.
feelings coming up for me. How can I make myself feel better? Well, I should go buy some perfume because I deserve it. And there's really good perfume out there to be bought, right? It gets a little bit hectic and crazy, but
Mhm.
you got to find a way to learn to control that.
Yeah, and I know that people we often will talk about like, like shopping addiction or whatever, like
Yeah.
perfume addiction. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, this is pretty innocuous, as a hobby or as a distraction. There's shit that people are doing that's
This is great though. Perfume is great. I don't know about you. I'll ask you why you wear perfume, but for me it's like with perfume when wear perfume it's mostly to connect with my emotions, and they're emotions that I'm not able to bring up without going through the practice of wearing that specific fragrance. Like if I tell you, you know what, Galen, I smashed my finger at work today with a hammer. I missed what I was aiming for and I hit my finger and I split it open. There was blood everywhere and there was so much. It was so painful, the worst pain of my life. And I can describe that to you all day. But unless you actually go through the process of smashing your finger and feeling it yourself, you'll never really know what I'm talking about,
uh-huh.
right? Now, when I wear perfume, it's the same thing. Like I feel an emotion. There's something coming like within me that I would never be able to express or feel unless it was wearing that fragrance itself. Does that make sense? Like there's no experience like when I wear, let's say, Chypre Palatin today, it's so moody. And like my mind goes into this contemplation about like my existence and all these things. And I feel like these feelings in the gut. And I'm like, it's such an amazing feeling that
Mhm.
it just wouldn't be possible unless I'm wearing Chypre Palatin, right?
Okay. I get it. I think that I wear it because probably much like you, it's able to it's expression, right, without words, right? It can express things that I'm totally incapable of actually putting words to. You know, it's like taking, you know, you know, a trip to another world. Um, I, it's just, yeah, there's just clearly I'm incapable of articulating like the intense joy that it brings me, right? But it's like, you know, this entirely new dimension, right, that it's able to kind of bring to a day, right, to bring to an experience.
Mm.
um you know, and I think part of it too is it's like i may not be I may not be um I may not be aware of it right now, but I know that I'm building memories that these scents will be able to transport me back to in 5 years, in 10 years, in 25 years, right?
Right.
I mean, there's like things that God, you know, I broke a bottle the other day. I broke it on purpose, right? But it was, it was empty, right? But I smelled it and I go, oh my, I was like, I finished this off, right? I finished this perfume. I've worn it 200 times. But the very last time I smelled it, I go, this reminds me of like 1991 at my friend's house, right? Like standing in his front yard, right? Like in San Diego, California, right? And like the cool breeze blowing down the street, right? You know, off of the ocean. I'm like going, holy shit, incredible, beautiful, you know? That's
Yeah.
what's so special about it.
Right. They're transportive.
I think the other thing too is, you know, and I've kind of alluded to this before, right? But you know, when you begin kind of, I think as I've gotten older and you know things have kind of fallen off, you know, by the wayside, you know, things that I used to, you know, do a lot of, like, you know, certain like experiences that perfume has begun to kind of like just sort of unlock new dimensions, right? That had been kind of previously totally ignored, you know, things that like, um, I don't think I was actually totally cognizant of, you know, for years, for decades, you know? It's like an
Yeah.
entirely new dimension. So,
I gotta hydrate. Sorry.
no,
You
it's okay.
you mentioned finishing a bottle. How often does that happen?
It's very rare. It's very rare. Very rare. So,
We add more than we finish.
oh God, yeah. Yeah. So, Eugene, I hate to do this. I'm sorry to have to bail, but I think I actually have to jump off here. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
It was wonderful to have you to join you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, my pleasure.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Sorry for taking off so quickly, but you know,
No
yeah,
worries.
you got
Thanks,
to take care
Galen.
of some stuff.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
And I will drop the link if somebody wants to come on. Give me a second. I got something in my throat. Somebody was asking about Pateau Perfume, and yes, I tried it once, and I thought it was brilliant. Uh it did kind of remind me of the Derby Accord. Very nice, very masculine, citrusy, clean. I think it was a citrus chypre, a leathery citrus chypre. But Anuj is here, and I do want to say hello, Anuj. I do see you. Anuj has gracefully invited me to his warehouse. Anuj is the owner of Enchanté Perfumes, a friend of the channel. So Enchanté is a boutique, a store that sells mostly vintage. And he's invited me to the warehouse on Monday, where we will either live stream or do a recorded video. So you don't want to miss out, because Enchanté is a wonderful vintage shop. Lots of great things. A lot of people here are very familiar with Enchanté, and they've pretty much like cleaned the place out. I'm sure Anuj has a lot of stuff in his warehouse that a lot of people would be really interested in. So join us. We're just going to talk about perfume and show a lot of interesting things. I think that'll be fun. And we've got a guest, another friend of the channel. Everybody, welcome JJ Colburn. What's up, JJ?
Hi. I'm hanging out here at my partner's place. We're finally moving in together in about a month, less than a month. So I don't have any of my fragrances here.
That's not a worry, man. I've got lots. I've got lots to share with everybody.
Yes. So, and I'm sure that if I decide to discuss something, you could just pull it from your.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I have on the way. I know that you are a fan of a lot of the Hermescence.
I love Hermescence, yes.
And I have Muguet Porcelain coming. And
blind?
What's that?
Blind buy?
It is a blind buy. But I found a bottle for relatively inexpensive on eBay. I'm not sure if this is a good idea for me to even share this, because all of the all the stores will run dry really quickly. But yeah, it is a blind buy. I am just completely relying on the fact that it has been recommended, and I love a Muguet note. Actually, Lily of the Valley is one of my favorite flower scents. We had lilies of the valley growing in my yard when I was a kid.
Right.
Every May. So my relationship to that flower is really deep. It's not just some sort of abstract where I don't know what the real flower smells like. I'm really familiar with it, and I'm very fond of it. And the one thing that really motivated me to finally purchase it without actually sampling it was reading Luca Turin review, because I recently got a few of his books. I finally.
What did he rate it?
4 stars, which is pretty generous for him. And he was really impressed with how Jean-Claude Elena was able to construct the Muguet note in such a way that it was really impressive, considering at the time of the release, a lot of the materials used to construct a Lily of the Valley note had become really restricted. So we're talking about hydroxycitronellal, lyrol, lilial, what have you. So in spite of that,
tell the viewers that Lily of the Valley is a synthetic accord that needs to be built by the perfumer.
It is. While there are many flowers that can yield some sort of fragrant material, even if it's prohibitively expensive, Lily of the Valley, it is impossible to yield any fragrant material, because the fragrance that comes from Lily of the Valley is chemically produced in a very different manner from a lot of other flowers. So you cannot derive it naturally. It has to be put together as an accord using synthetics and some naturals to create the effect. And of course, you have one of the most famous ones, Deorescence, from the 70s, which was like the classic Lily of the Valley scent. And with subsequent formulations, it is not exactly as profoundly beautiful as it once was. So it was really exciting to learn that there was actually a Lily of the Valley centric scent that was released in the past, 5 or 6 years, that really can capture that essence.
I love the Hermescence. I love Jean-Claude Elena. I do not own Muguet Porcelain, but I should. I should probably pick it up this spring. I think it's an absolutely hauntingly beautiful muguet.
Uh,
It's mostly rose and muguet,
yeah.
but it does have that, that pissy quality to it.
Which I do kind of like that quality, which is interesting because the flower itself doesn't really have that quality. But I think that often you'll have muguet with other white florals that once they kind of come into, into a chorus, there is that kind of a little bit of that pissiness or that
Some leather as well.
extreme greenness.
It goes well with leather.
I imagine that it could. I haven't really seen too many scents where at least in the notes pyramid, not that that's gospel, but at least in the notes pyramid where you see leather and lily of the
I
valley.
guess the most famous would be number 19, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right. I never even think of leather when I think of number 19 though, because it's just, the whole is much greater than the sum of its parts. It's just sort of like,
right. Have you tried Frederick Mall's Synthetic Jungle?
I actually haven't. Being somebody who's extremely fond of green scents, it's probably worth my while to give it a try. But I've heard some pretty good things about it. The thing that's kind of annoying though, Eugene, is when I join, I can't see the chat and interact with the chat. So I'm trying to open up like another page without it like.
What, are you on a cell phone or on your?
No, I'm actually on my laptop. So what happens is I join the live and then for whatever reason, like to the right where the chat would be, it's blank. And
That's interesting.
it is kind of annoying too, because like I'd like to see what other folks are chatting about. But I'm probably just going to open up another tab so I can take a look at it and just make sure that it's muted. So
let me see. I think there should be a place where you should be able to see.
Yeah. So I'm just okay. Now I can. But I want to make sure there's no feedback. Okay, good. All right. JJ wouldn't crash my beloved Moods of Uomo. No, I really appreciate Moods of Uomo. I do know that there's a lot of comparisons between that and Givenchy Gentleman, but I don't think that it is inferior to it. I don't know if are you familiar with Krizia Moods Uomo?
So if you were here earlier, I picked up Moods Uomo about 2 weeks ago, off of the claim that it was one of the greatest patchouli fragrances ever. And to my demise, I was left expecting a whole lot more.
That's kind of doing it a disservice by claiming it is one of the best patchouli scents ever, because while patchouli is the main centerpiece of it, I really wouldn't put it in that kind of category. It's kind of a little bit more than that. But I honestly wouldn't give it that kind of superlative.
How would you describe Moods? Like, first of all, what genre do you consider it? Because I find there's barbershop qualities to it. There is something warm, creamy. There's got to be a lavender in here, a big lavender.
Right. Yeah, there is an aromatic quality to it. It's sort of like more like a spicy, aromatic, woody fragrance. I mean, I'm just thinking that it's the 80s, so you had a certain amount of things that you would find in an 80s scent. It was actually 89, so this is sort of the tail end of a fragrance of this.
Not too old then, eh?
Not too old. It was released, I think it was in 1989, and you do have a lot of those men's aromatic notes in it, like our carnation and geranium and so on and so forth. And you have the leather and the leather and the patchouli makes it similar to the Givenchy Gentleman. But I find it to be just sort of like an 80s progression to Givenchy Gentleman. I think it's good. I think that it's not like mind blowing, but I like wearing it. I'm not.
You're into these old vintage style masculine fragrances, aren't you? Like this is your comfort zone.
what I'm trying, what I'm trying to do is dispel this idea that that's really what I focus most of my energy on.
But it shows, like, if I go to your Instagram, that's what I see. Like, proof is in the pudding. I'm not trying to judge you or define you, but that
No,
is
no, it's
what
okay. I'm not offended by it at all, but I think that a lot of folks should be aware that I really branch out a little bit more than that.
right.
I think I kind of, when I really started to get into collecting a few years ago, that's really where I just started to focus. I was really focusing on like classic fougères and sheeps, and I still do that. I still seek things out, not nearly as much, but I've expanded my palette a bit. I've opened my mind up a little bit more. Um,
You're
but
more
yeah,
well-rounded than just classic masculine.
and I think
Okay.
that a lot of folks who are really hardcore vintage and old school um, may not necessarily be quite as well rounded as me. Like I also do love a lot of niche, and I do I love a lot more recent stuff, and I'm getting into a lot more of it lately. And there are some where that's just sort of like they wear it on their sleeve, and it's just like I'm the guy who loves all of the the powerhouses and fougères, and that's my thing. But it's definitely not me. Like
It's crazy how we all kind of get to where we are in our journeys, and we all love what we do, and every like whoever you talk to has a different taste than the next person.
yeah, yeah.
How do you feel about things like, let's say, Invictus or King? Can you wear things like that?
No, not necessarily. And it's not like it's some sort of grandiose statement against it. It's just if it it just doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
That very Ambroxan, Tonka, ethyl maltol, ethyl vanillin, anything that's very heavy in that, or anything that's very heavy in woody ambers, or whatever type of substantive, tenacious aromachem that has been de rigueur for the past 10 to 15 years,
Hmm.
I just don't feel comfortable smelling it or wearing it. It's
Yeah.
not to say that it's bad perfumery, it's just not right for me. So
I
I've
just find them very goofy,
they can be goofy sometimes,
like
yeah.
very childish, and
Cumbersome.
they're great for a high school student or a young boy, right? But not something I want to wear with as an almost 50-year-old. They just don't resonate for me.
Yeah,
But I at the same time, they're not things that are marketed for me either. So, but
right.
there are grown-ups that do enjoy them.
There sure are. I mean, there are people well into their 30s and 40s who are influencers and content creators and YouTubers who are still on that bandwagon, just newer versions of it, or niche versions of it. I mean, I don't want to mention any particular houses, but I think a lot of niche houses are pretty much just rehashing those ideas and maybe adding a few elements to kind of get past to sort of like just cut the mustard to be considered niche just enough. uh,
Rehashing vintage ideas.
well,
Is that
that
what you
oh yeah, definitely rehashing vintage ideas, but rehashing like the Tonka heavy Ambroxan heavy,
right, right.
you know.
Are there any niche brands that you do enjoy?
Oh yeah, of course. Like, so I mean, it all depends on what you label niche. I mean, for me, niche
Generally.
can
General
can come from even a designer house. It would just be like their niche line. Say, for example, like Hermes has a niche line,
yeah.
it's a series, a number of niche lines. So, I mean, of course, there's Hermes, even though that's technically considered designer. But for niche houses, I love a lot from L'Artisan. I love a lot from Sage Lutan, Etro, Lorenzo Villoresi, who I think is really underrated and is absolutely eviscerated by Luca Turn in his books, which I can forgive because it's his own opinion. But I love a lot of Lorenzo Villoresi. Trying to think of what else. I've been actually packing all my stuff in anticipation for the move, but so I've been putting a lot of these together. There's a few from Miller Harris that I love, a few older releases. So I kind of like the old guard niche, I guess. Niche before it became saturated with all different kinds of houses and brands, because that's when I kind of just started to really get into them.
Okay, let me change the topic really quick. Put a quick spin on this because you brought him up. You mentioned the name Luca Turin.
Yes.
What do you think it is behind that name that so many people are kind of fascinated with? His name comes up very often amongst fragrance enthusiasts. Some people love him and some people hate him for the exact same reason. Tell
Yeah.
us where do you stand when his name comes up, and then give us.
Where do I stand? Well, I think he's a really great. I think he's a great writer. I think that he is pretty sharp with his wit and his observations. I think he's really good at making assessments, even if the assessments I don't agree with 100%. Actually, some of my favorite fragrances he has completely lambasted and has ripped to shreds. Not even 1 star. So,
Can you
but
give us an example?
I'm trying to think of an example. Um, yeah. So there's one that I really love by Perfume Roma called Thundra, which reminds me of like just the fusty, musty kind of like loamy, earthy outdoors, walk in the woods kind of patchouli. And I don't remember exactly what he said. I have the book in the other room if you really want me to fetch it. But he gave it 1 star, and he was just like, "This is absolutely dreadful." Something really, really wrong, really just like cruel. That's one of them.
So how do you feel like when one of your favorites gets eviscerated? Does it upset you, or do you just like
Oh
let it go?
no, I have thick skin. I think that people, I hope that people realize that I'm not an overly sensitive person when it comes to this stuff.
Mm.
It's all about opinions. I have opinions too. I may agree or disagree with what other people, put on a pedestal or reek praise over, but it's all about everybody having a unique olfactory bulb and a unique experience with scent. So whatever his assessment is, I appreciate it, even if I don't agree with it. He's just one person, but he's a person who's a really, a really great thinker and writer, and there's a lot of different, thinkers and writers. And there's an appeal to what he has to say, even though I don't necessarily agree with him all the time. So he doesn't offend me.
No. I'm fascinated with him just as much as everybody else is, and I'm always curious as to what Luke Turin has to say. But are there any things that he's awarded 5 stars that you just don't care about or disagree with? Because as
Um,
we were talking earlier, like I just don't care, and I own this, and I don't care for Invasion Barbar, and he gave this glowing 5 stars, and he's probably put, the stamp of approval, and I'm not sure that this
yeah,
would get the love in the community that it does because it's held to the highest regard, and I wonder, like, would people love this as much
yeah.
if Luca didn't, you know, bring it to the front?
Yeah, I'll speak to that point in just a second. I just noticed Denby's comment on Ambroxan, and I agree with him. It is beautiful if it's
I
dosed.
I'm
Uh,
a fan of Ambroxan too, in doses, right? Restrained. I love the soapy characters of Ambroxan.
mhm. Yeah, I definitely am. I don't dislike Ambroxan. I can appreciate it when it is used in a very thoughtful, tasteful manner. I mean, I know that's subjective in itself. It's just when it becomes a crutch for a lot, or if perfumers are really reliant on using it as a means of extending the fragrance by all means possible. But getting back to the Invasion Barbar, I actually agree with you, and it's somebody who I really appreciate a lot of different types of fougères. Um, it doesn't really excite me very much. I actually have never sampled cheap Palatin, but I did sample Invasion Barbar. I think it's fine, but I've smelled so many fougères that it doesn't really stand out to me amongst so many that I've smelled.
Yeah,
And I'm
for
sure that somebody out there is going to perhaps get defensive and say something, and that's fine. It's just it doesn't really.
it's just subjective taste and opinion. But yeah, I would prefer a $59 cut on Third Man in the fougere quality to this, and that's
Oh,
just
absolutely.
goes to show that price does not make a perfume as great as people think it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Le Troisième Homme de Coran is one of my favorite fragrances. Absolutely, in my top
Mm,
five.
yeah, I
That's
think.
how exquisite it is. That's where I do agree with Luca Turin, because I think Luca Turin gives that 5 star.
Did he? Okay, great. I agree with him on that. And I think it's one of the very few fragrance, not few, but it is a fragrance that is both exciting and I'm not sure about the modern formulation, but it's well made as well. It's probably not using the best quality ingredients, but it feels well made. It's complex, it's exciting, it's interesting, and it just rings all the bells for me, which I don't get when I wear Invasion Barbar. It's just like I'm so bored and lulled, and I want to go to sleep when I wear it. I was like, what? Like, what's next? Like, do something, move, let's go. Right?
Yeah,
That's how I feel.
yeah, yeah,
But Third Man to me is brilliant. Right? I want to release Third Man.
yeah. That would be one that I would want to release if it were a different time and dimension. I was like, I'd have the opportunity to. Some folks are discussing psychedelic, Jovoy. I recommend to folks to get Reminiscence Patchouli. Reminiscence Patchouli is
Who's that by?
Reminiscence Paris,
Oh,
Reminiscence Paris.
I've not heard of it.
95% the same. It really honestly is. Even the newest formulation is nothing to shake a stick at. I like psychedelic. I already had Reminiscence Patchouli, which actually was released in the early 70s.
Who made Psychedelic?
Psychedelic Jovoy Parry.
Right. Who's the perfumer?
Who did it? I can look it up. I'm right here.
Barbar is the shit. Houdini, are you saying that it's good or it's shit? Because this can go.
The shit
Barbar
or
is
shit?
the shit. Like, is it shit or is it the shit? He's saying the shit, but
So if it's the shit, that's
that's
usually
good.
a compliment.
Roscoe is saying yes, Houdini. What are we agreeing to?
Jacques Flory is the one who is the one. He worked for Robert Tett. He's the one who composed Psychedelic. And he also did Magot by Etro, which is one Etro I'm not familiar with.
Overpriced and overrated. Which Mika? What is overpriced and overrated? Psychedelic or Invasion Barbar?
Hmm.
There was a patchouli that I tried at the same time as I tried psychedelic, and I can't remember the name right now. It was on my road trip to Montreal, and I thought it was really good. Had a logo like a shield. It was on. It was on one of my live streams in Montreal. If somebody remembers.
When I picture a shield, maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't the Nobile?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Nobile patchouli. Yeah, have you tried that? You
I
did?
have not. I haven't explored that house for reasons mostly due to my not wanting to explore any houses because I have way too many fragrances and I really just cannot be turned on to much more. But I am familiar with the house. So it was a good patchouli.
Yeah, I thought it was more complex than psychedelic. And Speedwolf saying Invasion Barbar smells like gust up Reflection Man, which smells like a fussed up Lemol. All of them are nice though. Bryce saying, and I will agree with this very much, psychedelic is a very similar to Coromandel to me, just minus the aldehydes at the top. I don't think psychedelic is half of Coromandel, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
there's
just a
something
very
about
big,
portrait.
bold, loud, brash, sweet patchouli. Um, I'm taking Coromandel 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the duck is ask JJ what he thinks of Etro Jamais Palais.
Ooh, Palais Jamais. That one's gorgeous. Talk about something that gives me like synesthesia. There's something textured
Mm.
in Palais Jamais that it just feels like a greenish gray, and it's just very thick with like vetiver, but the vetiver doesn't jut out of it. It's not spiky. It isn't like there's just something so beautiful about Palais Jamais. That's a really great Etro. That's one of my favorites from Etro, actually. Yeah, love that one.
Any favorite rose and oud outside of the obvious? Rose and oud. One of my favorite is Cartier's rose oud or oud and rose. I'm not sure if that's too obvious for you, but how
Too
about
obvious
you?
to me. I can appreciate a rose oud, but I feel like once I smell about 3 or 4 of them, after a while, it's like, okay, I get the point. This is the
Hmm.
there's not. I feel like a lot of them smell pretty similar, so I have like a couple of them that I do enjoy that I think are pretty good quality. Actually, one of them, which claims to not even have oud as a note, but to my nose, it smells like rose and oud, and it's a Clinique Beyond Rose, which was originally released just in the Middle Eastern market, and then it started to show up in the gray market on like different sites like Fragrance Net and that sort of stuff. And it's not terribly expensive either. I think I bought mine for maybe $80 or something, and it sure beats a lot of the others that I smelled that retail for, I don't know, 300.
Mm. Mm. Fosco saying Coral Mandel is way too loud for me. Love this smell, but it's too. Man, I wish it was louder on me. I find it beautifully restrained, beautifully.
I find it to be quite nuanced, actually. That's a first. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that it was quite loud, but it could just be a matter of perception. Maybe his olfactory bulb receives it very loudly.
Fosco, EDT or EDP? James, Me Too what? Me Too movement? Me Too what? Let us know. Hi, Hills. Um, so I'm going to recommend a Rose Oud, and then we're gonna go spin another direction because I know you probably have a lot to say about this.
Hmm.
I'm going to recommend Roja's Oud, which is a rose oud, and then I want to ask you your thoughts on Roja.
Oh, God. Put me on the hot seat here.
Hey, that's we got to keep it exciting.
Yeah. So I don't want to claim that I have like a
You
really.
don't have to go too deep or too hard, or just give us your.
Hmm. So I don't want to claim to have like really too much of an opinion because I've only smelled at seriously like 2 or 3 of his fragrances. I don't doubt the quality of the fragrances. What I smelled, I thought was really well done. I would wear them, but it's not a brand that I would want to go full bottle with. I hope that's good enough.
Okay. I was expecting you to go into this big fucking diatribe and
No,
just rip them because I know, like,
no.
I did see your comments in the last live stream, and you were like referring to Roja as like Veblen goods, and I was like,
Well,
oh,
that's
okay.
the reason why I wouldn't go full bottle. So it's not that the fragrances themselves are poor. I think that a few of them are a bit reductive. I wouldn't necessarily obliterate them the way that Luca Turin does, humorously. But yeah, I do think that they are kind of Veblen goods. I think that they, for the cost, there comes a point. See, my whole mentality is that, and maybe this is an arbitrary number, but once something exceeds $350, then it just becomes conspicuous consumption. It's like, how rare and how quality can the materials be to warrant it to be the price of 400, 500, 1,000, etc. So what you're looking at is this manufactured overhead. It is the fact that it becomes a brand that is expensive for the sake of being expensive, which is exactly what a Veblen good is. It's sort of like having a luxury car that does everything a car should do to the best of its ability, but still has this exceedingly high cost that doesn't really warrant anything else but the fact that it's a luxury. And a lot of luxury goods are like that. And I think that Raja Dove is an example of a house that does fall more so into the Veblen goods kind of category. And even like Chanel to a degree, but even Chanel is like,
Well, most
accessible.
most of those designer exclusives, you can say the same. They're overpriced just for the
Right,
sake of being overpriced. But then, you really get into that territory of judging a fragrance not for what it is, but for its cost, for its price.
right,
And
right.
that again is subjected to, to the 71 people that we have watching here. They're all going to react differently to the price.
Yeah,
Not so much the fragrance. I agree. They are very expensive, and Roja's like he's outpriced himself. For me, I'm not paying $2,000 retail for a majority of his fragrance. Not all of them are that high, but
mm.
um, there's many that are.
Yeah. But somehow I'm more compelled to buy a full bottle of something from Les Exclusives. They're
Right.
just
But I can't deny the beauty of Diaghilev, and when one comes up on discount, I had no second doubts about splurging.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's actually one that I haven't sampled. So
And
that's
I'd rather have one Roja Diaghilev than 3 or 4 other exclusive perfumes, right?
wow. That's a really a surprising stage. Are you talking about exclusives from other houses or
Yeah, not necessarily from Chanel, but right.
exclusive?
And then 3 other randoms.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can find Rojas discounted quite often.
The only other reason why I wouldn't go full bottle is because I find the bottles to be hideous. I know that's not the reason why somebody should not buy. There are actually some bottles that I have that like I hide because I think that they're like I love the fragrance, but I think that the itself is just like dreadful looking. Um, but yeah, and not all of them are as gaudy. I just don't like the aesthetic. You know what? It's funny how I'm just such a visually oriented person as well, and it's probably unfair of me to do that. But if like certain bottles of luxury houses just look like they're trying too hard to make an impression on wealthy, well-heeled people who see shiny gold crystal.
What is it? The caps that you don't like?
Oh
Like
God,
the
the caps.
bottle's just kind of a square, really sharp square bottle. There's nothing to it, and then it's got that
Those I can't. I don't know
gold
what it is.
plaque.
It's kind of like those people who have like that aversion to something like a honeycomb or something has like a lot of little holes in it that it's just kind of like I don't know what it is about studs. Studs to me are just they're egregious. But if you took the cap off and put a different cap on, it would look like so much better to me.
So let's put a Chypre Palatine cap on. Like, you like that?
See if
That
that.
that's MDCI cap. Like, that looks like computer like crap. I mean, it looks better on the MDCI bottle, right? That actually goes somehow. But
Yeah, that cap isn't proportionate. So I'm being sort of tongue in cheek, Eugene. Like I hope you're not taking
how's that?
100% serious.
Put a nice Anteos cap on there.
Actually, no. It's really
I don't have a problem with the packaging. I kind of like this. It's nice.
that one's pretty good. That's
But
like like a really like left field niche. That's fine. It's fine.
like, yeah, Roja's taking a beating in the chat. Looks like a lot of people are not fans.
I think that I unleashed the hounds here. Like I just by even so much as a suggestion.
Denby seems like he's leading the pack. He's like completely outraged. Every time Roja comes up in conversation, he goes off the deep end. The fact that Roja perfumes are good is completely coincidental. How is it like every single one is coincidentally good?
The
The
fact
customer base would buy them even if they smelt like insert brand. Thankfully, Roger decided to rip off Guerlain in this case. Well, Guerlain no longer wants to make Guerlain fragrances. They want to compete with modern times. So Roja's decided to take over for them.
right.
Guerlain is dead. the Guerlain that we know is no longer
Oh, it's
Guerlain.
totally dead. And I mean, it's dying in the least. If
Yeah,
somebody,
they've died 25 years ago.
you know,
They've died probably after L'Instant de Guerlain, right?
yeah. I mean, it's been.
Guerlain L'Homme is not Guerlain.
Oh yeah,
L'Homme Ideal is not Guerlain, right?
musky.
Mon Guerlain is not Guerlain. Le Petit Robe Noir, it's not really Guerlain.
No, and obviously things that were considered so valuable in their heyday did not sell well, and they weren't they didn't give it a second thought about putting those on the axe, like Mouchoir de Monsieur and the likes.
Right.
But yeah. Guerlain is not really what it used to be, and that's just something I've come to accept. But then that could be said about a lot of other fragrance houses. Like,
Mm.
I don't know what the hell's going on with Serge Lutens. And Serge Lutens, I've been, that was like one of my first niche houses that I got into, I don't know, like 14, 15 years ago. I don't know what the hell's going on with that house. Like
It
some of,
seems like once they went into Sephora, everything took a nosedive after that.
yeah. And then like, when
The
Chris
reviews
Shelton
have been
really,
getting like easier. And
like L'Orpheline, I think those are pronounced, like it was boring, like vapid smelling thing. I was like, this is the same guy who composed Amp Sultan and Glee
Yeah.
Claire, and he ended up composing that. And then that line that, talk about Veblen goods. They got in the Veblen goods bandwagon too, with those like the gold plated labeled ones that are like $650. Like, what?
Yeah, they wanted to enter this exclusivity, I guess, to compete with Chanel and Dior and
Perhaps.
Hermes. Is that their idea of designer exclusive? Even though they're not a designer brand, are they?
No, they're well,
Matter really?
necessarily. I mean, they were born out of Shiseido. Once again, like my definition of niche is whether or not the market is niche. So a designer house can have a niche line. So they are niche. Serge Lutens was never meant to be super mainstream. So I don't really know what. And then they exited the market as well, the U.S. market. I'm assuming the Canadian market as well, if they even had a Canadian market. So,
They were in Sephora at one time. It's been ages since I've been inside of a Sephora, but I imagine they're still there because I do remember seeing the new packaging.
the Gratte-Ciel, that was a real crap move too. the worst bottles to photograph as well.
They're horrible. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you
Nothing
mean.
flatters them at all. I mean, the bottles, the original bottles, while beautiful, are pushing it as far as photographing them as well, because they're so oblong. But then they decided to make these towering thing, with like looks like a TV antenna on top.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the idea, is to look like a
Yeah,
building, wasn't it?
totally. Like that's what a CL. Yeah,
Isn't that Gratte-Ciel means? Like big.
yeah, skyscraper. I mean, they're kind of cool looking, but like they just don't translate well in fragrance photography at all.
No, they are kind of awkward too, right?
They are
You know
pretty
what? You know what it reminds me of is like a woman's mascara thing where they do their what's this, eyelashes?
mascara. Yeah,
Yeah, doesn't it look like that? They pull out this big, roddy, sticky thing, and they like pour a bunch of gook on their eyes and
yeah.
to look good for guys or other women. I don't know, but that's what it reminds me of, really.
Yeah.
Mascara stick.
The folks in the chat are kind of they're amusing me right now. Where was Serge? Is too busy building his palace, doesn't give a crap. Doubt Sheldrake is there anymore. It's probably true. Serge Lutens are like $70 in discounters and $320 in the store. I have probably only bought like retail Serge Lutens maybe twice out of the 24 that I have.
Have you noticed that perfume enthusiasts, they're hardcore, right? And they don't like change, and they like what they like, and they hate what they don't like, right? And they're really stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think that you can find that in pretty much any kind of hobby or passion. You have those people who really just they're very much stuck on their what they like and are not afraid to be open about what they don't like. I think that the problem that occurs as a result of that is when there ends up being these, you know, shouting matches or, you know, dick measuring contests or pissing contests or something where one person wants to insist that the other person's wrong.
Mm,
And there is no wrong or right answer.
that's right. That's right.
And I can't tell you how many times I have heard or had somebody write in response to what I say is they say that my nose is broken.
Yeah, I hear that quite often. I actually seen it in the chat tonight.
Yeah, my
I
nose
saw
is
it in the
broken.
chat
Well, I must
tonight.
have had a pretty good rhinoplasty then.
And that's okay. But at the end of the day, people just want to be heard, whether it's, to agree or disagree with someone else. They
Yeah,
want to express themselves and share their opinion. And
right.
and sometimes I feel like they're also not only expressing themselves, but they're trying to get other people to agree with them or to get them to change their minds on certain things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's persuasive ways to make an argument, you know?
Right. Right.
Be persuasive and sort of, you know, kind of try to meet somebody in the middle, or even maybe a little bit more challenging, meet them where they are. And I've tried it. I mean, especially
Yeah.
folks who are new and eager and really enthusiastic about fragrance, and they may have like a very, you know, a limited amount of reference for fragrance. And it all depends on whether or not they are open to new experience. I think some people are perfectly happy having a bubble of folks who give them sort of like an echo chamber and say, yes, I think that's great too. And I think that's great as well. We all think this is great. And this is positive conversation. And then they don't want to
Yeah. Do
kind
you
of,
find that people like to circle themselves with other people with similar tastes and opinions and people that will just agree with them?
I think that there is a tendency with some people to want to have that echo chamber. And
That's why I like having Rich here because he has very different tastes and opinions than mine, and it gives us something to talk about.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I think it's important to have a little difference of opinion, and this speaks to the larger picture as well. I think we've become so compartmentalized and polarized in our views that even with something a little bit more, you know, like a microcosm kind of thing like this, it's important to
yeah.
have a little bit of difference of opinion and to have healthy debate, as long as it just stays civil and stays friendly and respectful, you know.
Demby
Even
says, "You know the way it goes. Agree with me, and you're a genius. Disagree, and you're an imbecile." I get the feeling Demby likes to do a little bit of this, but that's fine.
yeah,
It's.
stir
I
the pot.
imagine it's coming from a good place.
Even I do that a little bit, but what I do it not in the sense of not necessarily to troll, but to challenge people in what they may be discussing, or what they may, or their viewpoint, or if they make sort of like a very sweeping statement about something. Like, let's challenge that a little bit.
Mm,
Like, are we real? Or is really what we're saying gospel? Is really, you know, do we really have a monopoly on what is good taste? You know?
yeah. I find when somebody does blurt out something stupid, just continually ask them why. Well,
Yeah,
why?
yeah.
Well, why? And then you'll see they really have no idea why. They just want to be heard.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, sometimes people want, it's kind of like, you know, and not like I want to compare adults to children, but you know, we do have children in us, you know, the core of us is the child. But like a child, um, when it wants to get attention, it will try different means of getting attention until they get
Mhm.
that attention. And once you give them that attention, it all depends on what happens from there. What kind of, you know, how you give them the attention. And I think if you're using a little bit of psychology, like I said earlier, like meet them where they are. Like, okay, so you think it sucks? Tell us about it. Let's have a conversation about it, rather than preemptively decide, you know what, you're full of shit, and then close the argument, because they're not necessarily full of shit, and they're not necessarily wrong. It's just that, like we do, they have an opinion. So let's hear about
Mhm.
it. How do they form that opinion?
That's right.
Devlin.
Devlin says it's the mere ownership effect. If you spend money on something, you will like it more. People who shit talk your perfumes are by extension shit talking you, and people take it serious business. Well, I guess there's a way of telling somebody you don't like their fragrance without insulting them, and it can be done. Rich and I do it all the time on a daily basis.
Yeah.
However, I oftentimes buy fragrances that I don't necessarily love. I like to, as a collector, I've got a ton of stuff I don't love, right?
So do I.
It's just a part of the process. I like to have references of this and that. And, 30 years back, I'll love to pick up my bottle of Sauvage and say, look what they were wearing like in 2020, right? Nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah. I mean, a lot of fragrances that I have, I do identify them as for reference.
yeah.
Like, it's not even so much like I reach for them to wear frequently, but I like having them for reference. And I consider myself almost sort of like a curator, like I like the idea of being able to refer to what I've curated in my little museum that I've created for myself. And it's why I have certain fragrances that, wouldn't necessarily translate well in the real world. Like, I think that vintage whale vintage Je Reviens by Worth is this beautiful old world lilac heliotrope, but it's not necessarily something that I would spray on and go to the coffee shop or go out to on a night in the town or hang out with my buddies at the bar, because it just doesn't translate into the here and now the same way.
Have you tried Iquitos?
I tried.
Rich has been pestering me to buy Iquitos. What do you think of Iquitos? Alain Delon Iquitos.
Alain Delon. I have not tried it. I would be elated to have somebody give me a sample of it, so I can finally experience what all the commotion is about with this legendary Iquitos. So if somebody wants to send me a sample, I'll give my thoughts.
Envy is accepting samples. Not Envy. JJ is accepting samples of Iquitos. There you go.
Yeah, if somebody wants to send me a sample of it, doesn't need to be very much, because at this point, like, I'm definitely not going to blind buy something like that.
Well, I was going to. I think I am going to. How do you feel about blind buying? I mean, you've been around quite a bit. Do you do it?
I do a lot of it.
Yeah.
I totally do a lot of it. Especially with the pandemic, I haven't really had a chance to, too many opportunities to go in. I mean, a lot of things are just impossible to blind buy, unless somebody, impossible not to blind buy, like I'll ask people, if they have a sample of something, and if I can't access, a little sample, it depends on whether or not it's going to be expensive though. Like, it's much less of a risk if it's going to be 20, 30, 40 bucks. But if it's something like Iquitos, which is going for, I don't know, like a minimum of $300 right now, I think, for like a 30 mil.
Is it $300 US?
Because
I can find it for relatively cheaper here.
You can?
Yeah, well, I found 100 mil for $230.
Which is still pretty pricey.
And I'm not telling you where, because on the last stream, Rich was talking about Iquitos on Rich's stream. And I came on and he's like, Eugene, you got to buy Iquitos. And I'm like, all right, I'll call a couple of shops around and I'll see if they have it. So I found a place had a bottle, and I reported back. I was like, Rich, I found one locally, and somebody had asked where. And I said the name of the shop.
Oh,
and the next thing I know, the person went and they bought it. And I was like, what the fuck? Like,
you got to keep that stuff discreet. You got to.
I've learned a lesson, and now I will.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of little hot spots that I don't tell anybody about, unless I have a private conversation with them. Like
Message me, famous YouTuber.
People know where to find me. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, you can slide into my DMs, JJ Colborn. That's shameless plug right there. You can just send me a message there. I can, if you strike up a good conversation and you're a nice boy or girl, and you just
Duck got it Iquitos for free, and now he's plugging it. Is that how it works, eh?
I love the one comment, like I've tried Doritos. Where was it?
Ah, there There's the man, Paroli.
Who's Paroli?
He's the one that bought it. Paroli, are you from Toronto? Are you in the area? Paroli's keeping silent the whole stream. People, and when they do find a hotspot, they won't mention it. I know a few people that keep secrets.
People ask me, where do you buy your stuff? And they think that I'm actually going to tell them exactly where I buy all of my stuff. Because, the toothpaste will be out of the tube at that point. It'll be done.
Yeah, I'm lucky here in Toronto, and I hear people say all the time, like, we don't have places like that. But here in Toronto, we're literally like, we are littered with little ma and pa discount perfume shops that are sometimes like, they're called the fireworks. They sell mainly fireworks, but they have like this huge sector of fragrances, and it's not even in the name, so people can't find them, right?
Absolutely brilliant. Let's take two highly flammable humor items and sell them together. I will drop one hint. Canada is very helpful in my procuring great fragrances, but
yeah,
that's the extent of it.
We're very lucky in that sense. Very lucky.
People are ruthless in Fragcom, Rudy said. Yeah, there is some ruthlessness. People can be really like almost pathological. It's really scary when it comes to something as like relatively, lighthearted like fragrance. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's just kind of like egos take over and they get in the way, right?
Egos incredible. Yeah.
Anuj, are you familiar with Enchanté? Like the stream here, they're literally like vultures. I went into a discount shop the other day and I got called a scavenger, right? She's like, how can I help you? And I told her what I was she's like, you're one of those scavengers, right? I was like, I started laughing. First of all, you're judging me, right? As a scavenger. And I was like, hey. I get what you mean, but we had a good laugh. And I was there for almost an hour. I didn't buy anything, but I was just having like a nice deep conversation with the sales lady. And it was funny. She's been selling perfumes for 30 years and she says it's a very profitable business. And she said, like, I'm still in business after 30 years, right? And it was a good time. But
and you're talking about Enchanté or
no, it was a much smaller shop.
Okay.
And but I was going to say, like, a lot of these guys in the chat here are familiar, like friends of this channel have literally scavenged Enchanté. But he's invited me to his warehouse on Monday to either live stream or do like a recorded video and just talking about perfume and some of the things that he's had. So Monday should be interesting. Hopefully it's going to be Monday. We agreed to Monday, but that could change. So keep an eye out for that, especially for all you that are into vintage fragrances.
Yeah, that's a good
amazing collection.
Very kind gentleman too, and
you familiar with Anuj?
If that is the same person who runs, I mean, are you talking about who runs Enchanté?
Yeah,
well, I'm like one of his regular customers. He was on the stream then, right?
Yeah, he's been on several times.
Very kind. There was a little mistake on an order, and his turnaround on fixing that was unlike anything else I experienced on any online retailer.
Awesome.
Very so I tip my hat to you, Anuj, and I will return to you soon. Very soon.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of goodies from there. All the Delon frags are surprisingly good. I'm always a bit suspicious of celebrity fragrances with no real reason. Yeah, but that's different. Alain Delon was different. Alain Delon was like predated like the tidal wave of celebrity fragrances that came in the 90s and onward. It was a very different thing altogether. I guess like Liz Taylor was like one of the first in the US, I think. She did like Passion and White Diamonds and all that.
Yeah, you mean for like celebrity brands?
Yeah, in the 80s.
I don't know, man. I don't really follow a lot of those celebrity brands. I guess this is like the snob in me. I'm sure a lot of them are really good too. I think my mom used to wear like one of the Elizabeth Taylors. from a
Um,
long time ago.
took you some time to even warm up to Luciano Pavarotti, but you turned you made a
I really like Pavarotti.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't the first wearing, and that's why I'm like I'm not going to give up on moods. But Pavarotti, the first time I wore it, and this happens to me quite often, I'll change my mind. Like I'll strongly dislike something, so I'll wear it again the next day, and I change my mind. But I thought it smelled cheap to me, but now it's like, oh no, it's much better. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with getting air inside of that bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, there could have something to do with a little bit of oxidation that changes things.
Mm.
Um, that's a controversial topic. Some people think that's hogwash. But
I don't know, man. I've sprayed many a new bottles, and usually the first wearings have been underwhelming, only to come back later and say, wow, like my opinion's really changed. The experience has changed too. And it's gone from super sweet to like the sweetness toned down for some reason. That's something I notice a lot as well.
mm,
The sweetness goes lower.
yeah, yeah. So
So
the
it's either, I don't know, it's just your perception of it could change, or if the fragrance physically changes, I don't know. It does sound crazy though.
I'm not an extremely skeptical person. I don't doubt that there's some sort of alchemy that's possibly going on as a result of there being some oxygen in the bottle that wasn't there before. The perfume critic, I'm just reading the chat too. Aaron Terrence Hughes is ruthless. Is perfume critic? Are you referring to his reviews, to his personality in general,
Who
to
cares?
his? Did you just say okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We will.
How do you feel about live streaming? Do you prefer, like I was asking earlier, do you prefer like would you like to see more live streams that are shorter in length, or would you like to see longer live streams but less of them?
Um, I don't. I think it all depends on the quality of the content. I think
Mm.
that you could very well have like a good long live stream, and you have a really lively discussion, a good banter. Frequency, it all depends on whether or not you have the time for it. You have the audience. How many people are on here right now?
We're at 93 people, which
Oh,
is pretty good for what time is it? It's like 9:30 on a Thursday night.
yeah,
But not every, a lot of these streams go into 2, 3, 4 hours. Not a lot of people have that much time. And I imagine it's a lot of people dipping in and out. It's not 93 people watching
yeah,
right through, because it is a lot of time to invest into a live stream.
right. But you know, that's just a natural part of a live. I even have my lives that I do on Instagram, and the net volume of viewers is enough for me. Even if maybe at one point, I only have like 10 or 12, it is designed in such a way that people can kind of pop on and pop off, especially when you don't have it so entirely structured that now the time is approximately 9:30 and we're going to discuss such and such. Yeah, that's just the nature of live streams. You have that kind of like weaving in and out, and then you have your hardcore folks who stick in for the whole
Yeah. Has anyone been here since the beginning?
speak now. Villaresi Sandalo, Rich Mitch. Yeah, that's one. So next week, Eugene, is my sandalwood week, and
I've never tried the Villaresi sandalwood, but I hear a lot of good things about it.
it's gorgeous. It is.
Rich has been here since the beginning. Rich is in this pit. Savage.
I can't wait until I move because like I'll actually have like a better setup to just jump on lives on the fly, and I won't have like this glistening, shiny, bald head. And it's like
I mean, you're fine there. You're fine as it is.
it's really lo-fi though. Yeah, the chat is really amusing. See, that's another thing that I love is like the interaction with the conversation as well. Like
Hmm.
keeping them, kind of like part of the conversation as much as possible too. That's what I noticed, Eugene, is on Instagram lives. Like a lot of people really start to neglect the actual conversation going on. Like you
So
really
there's
make that like a big part of it. And sometimes I'll watch a live and the people are just like back and forth, back and forth, and they're not paying attention at all to the people who are viewing. And that's when the they start dropping like flies because you're not really engaging with them. Thank you, Denby. I appreciate that. My series Effluvium. I have Persolays actually coming up this Sunday, which should be a treat.
And why don't you shout out your series, your Instagram?
Oh yeah. So I have an interview series each week. The time changes, so I do let people know in advance, like when it comes up. But it's once a week. It's called Effluvium. If people want to know what that means, it is an emanation that comes from someplace in the quagmire or in vegetation that may not necessarily be always pleasant. It's sort of a cheeky name for the interview series. So I do this every week and I interview a new person, and I'm going to be doing it through May, and then that will be the end of the season. And I think what I'll do is I will just move it to YouTube, perhaps. Because I think I'm at the point where, and not to toot my own horn, I'm starting to kind of grow out of the Instagram thing. Like I need a little bit more room, and to grow, there's only so much. Oh, the latest interview, Prof. Melvin. Yes, I interviewed Dimitriadis from Perth, Australia. That was a really good one. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to Persolay?
Yeah, that should be really interesting. Like I when I started to set up a lineup, I really wanted to just reach out to people who I think had things to say, and could really flesh out the conversation. And I thought, I think he'd be really good at it. He is. He definitely has a unique approach, and I thought that it would be a good choice of guest. So I do look forward to it. It'll be.
He's an interesting guy. I really enjoy his reviews. Is there anything that you specifically would like to know from him?
I'd like to know where he got to where he is right now. I will just ask questions like I normally do when I start things off, and see if I can get him to open up a little bit. And if he doesn't want to open up, then I just shift gears and I move towards more, benign conversation about fragrance. So I don't really have too much of an agenda. It's just going to be more freeform. So
yeah. Do you like to get to know whoever you're talking to on a personal level, or do you like just keeping it strictly fragrance?
Oh, I love the idea of getting to know people on a personal level. I've chosen guests that I think that could potentially become good friends. If that doesn't happen, it's not something I would take personally. But yeah, of course. I think I've already made a few good friends through initially inviting them as guests on the series. So yeah, that's what's great about this community is I think that I've met a lot of great people who have become friends. Yeah.
That's kind of what social media is turned into. It's not just media, but a place for us to socialize and get together and get to know each other. And yeah, I've been able to cultivate some relationships outside of just Perfume and get to know people on a nice personal level, right?
Yeah.
I haven't met too many people outside, in person, but I got to, get to know people, and it's nice. There's a lot of nice people out there. There's a lot of good people.
Yeah, totally. I think that's what helps, not to get sappy about it, but I think that's what helps build a community is for there to be that opportunity to make deeper connections and really have true engagement. And I believe that some of the concerns or complaints that people have is that some people enter the community with a very different agenda, and they kind of want to take what they can get out of having involvement in that community to get what they want without necessarily building deeper connections. And my advice for those who may be frustrated with that, if they see that on YouTube or Instagram or what have you, is to just let them do their thing. I think that I started to get a little cynical for a while, and I was, starting to point fingers at what this person and that person was doing, and that it wasn't really It didn't really show very much integrity, that they had certain motives that were, their intentions were not so great. But the way that I look at it now, after giving it some thought, is that these people, they surface, they crest, and then they disappear.
Hmm.
And they move on to something else. They get what they can out of it. And if that's all they, if they just ring it out and they move on. So they may bother you today, but they'll disappear tomorrow.
It usually does. And then the next big thing comes up, and whatever you got sucked into gets forgotten. But there's been times where I've been, people have tried to pull me into things or bring me into things, and they'll send me a link to something or a snapshot, and I'll just be like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
And I'll move on. Like,
yeah,
I'm not going there. It's none of my business.
Yeah. I think I'm
fortunate that it's happening, but
I'm totally guilty of that. I think I've sent you a couple things a couple times, and I could tell, like, yeah, he's not having it.
Yeah, I'm not going there. Nothing personal to anybody, but it's just
no.
it's really shitty that this is happening, but I don't need to get involved.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's enough people getting involved, and I can see the fucking shitstorm going inside of there.
Right. There was a recent incident where I was like, you know what, enough. I can't get myself riled up and entwined in that kind of stuff, because then it becomes more than the issue at hand. Like, it's even so much that whoever is in question for doing something that is offensive or homophobic or misogynistic or cruel, it becomes less about that and more about the person who wants to really create a lot of trouble. Like, it almost ends up being just as bad.
Yeah.
So
and life's got, you got problems all over, and you just don't need to absorb more.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. It's like, I got my own things going on that I want to deal with, and this just really takes away from the things that I need to get done.
Yeah. People are talking about ardent sandalwood. Now, that is a lovely sandalwood. I was actually planning on bringing that one up next week. Now, ardent sandalwood, Eugene, that came out in the 60s.
Arden, like
Arden, like Elizabeth Arden.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. Elizabeth
Arden sandalwood. It's a very old school sandalwood. Very good stuff, though. It was discontinued probably about 12, 13, 14 years ago, but it was released in, I think, the late 60s. So folks are chatting about it there.
Did you ever smell the Avon fragrances? I don't know how old you are. Or, like, when I was a little kid, they used to have these Avon people going around selling perfume and cosmetics door to door.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh,
like, are you old enough to remember that?
Of course. Do you remember the first chat or the first live that I jumped on? I pulled out an Avon. I have some Avon.
I don't remember.
Yeah. It was like that large.
Oh, when you came on our stream.
It must have been like back in, I don't know, like November. It was like the first time I jumped on one. I have like a few Avon. Yeah. They're cheap and cheerful. They're very, sometimes they're surprisingly good quality. There's actually this gentleman by the name of The Scented Devil, who's on Instagram, and he also has done hundreds of reviews on Base Notes, and he is an expert on Avon. Like,
I follow him on Instagram. Yeah, I know who that is.
He knows his Avon, and he helped me better. Like, I already had a fondness for Avon, like a nostalgic fondness for Avon. I never really was one to knock Avon, even though, they're not necessarily considered high end by any means. But he really helped me to gain a much better appreciation for the Avon releases as far back as, God knows how long ago, even to more recent ones. So he is somebody to hit up to chat about Avon. He actually encouraged me to buy a few of them, and they go for like ridiculously low prices as well.
Yeah. Are they good perfumes?
They're pretty good. They're pretty good, actually. Like, I'm impressed with some of them. Like, like that. There's one called Öland, and which is it's like a Nordic name with like an umlaut over the O, and it was released in the early '70s, and it's like it smells like it could be like a vintage Hermes or something. It's like
I wonder if we could get Denby says the Scented Devil is probably one of the top 5 frag historians on the internet.
yeah, we have some good conversations. He and I, like he definitely knows his stuff. Yeah, he's a good guy to chat with. And I want to make sure this laptop is not unplugged because I have an old laptop that has no battery. Sorry about that. But yeah, he is excellent to chat about scent with, and he even does these lives on Instagram where he breaks it down historically, like gives the whole historical context of a certain release or a certain series of releases. And he doesn't get very many views, and I feel like tons of people should be watching it because he really knows his stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
you can see his Fragrantica reviews are really detailed, and he goes into historical, even comparisons, like what was popular at that time of the release of the fragrance, and
Right.
things that it was comparable to, and gives a little bit of history background, which was good. They're very deep reviews.
Yeah. He has very thoughtful writing. I can appreciate that because I'm actually much more of a writer. I love to speak, obviously, but I love writing. So when people are talking about reviewing, I like to review. I like to really discuss the fragrance and just how it makes me feel.
Okay, let's give him a shout out. Let me find his page,
Yeah,
and I'll drop the link.
you should. He deserves it. Absolutely. He's great. He's one of the people I really appreciated about his in-depth knowledge, and that's really like the
I hope he's not going to mind, because I don't know him personally.
I don't think so. His whole attitude.
There's his Instagram.
He's not looking for clout. He's not looking.
And I think he goes under the same. I'm pretty sure he goes under the same name on Fragrantica.
Yeah, I think so. Wild Country. Yeah, Jeremy Hines. Yeah, it ain't half bad.
So Fosco says his video on the history of YSL was insane. I'm not familiar with this. How did he get all of that information? Where can you find that, Fosco?
So what is this? His video? A video on the history of YSL?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, so if you actually go to his Instagram, all of his videos are just archived. So you could just watch him, expound upon these fragrances on these archived Instagram lives. It's great.
Catherine says, and I would agree with Catherine, Monsieur Guerlain was a great historian, but he seems to have disappeared. Yeah, he was obsessed with Guerlain, and he would post about Guerlain, and he would bitch about them, and in the best way possible. And he would bitch about the same things that all of us bitch about, how Guerlain has kind of lost their shine. And he had a huge following, and Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy at one point had taken him down. Yeah, for infringing on the Guerlain name. It was almost like they thought that he was representing Guerlain because he had Monsieur Guerlain in the name, right? Where he wasn't he wasn't affiliated with Guerlain, and then they brought him back up.
I don't know. That's sort of verges on petty, but I guess
right, from a huge brand. But I think it did come from some of the creative directors at Guerlain, because I remember talking to them, and they did not like him at all.
Oh, really?
Because he was very critical, of them personally.
Yeah.
So I think it was more because of them that they probably got Louis Vuitton to go after him.
Yeah.
Than it was Louis Vuitton.
I mean, LVMH isn't the worst of them all, of the grand syndicate conglomerate, huge, like I have a lot of bones to pick with like L'Oreal and Puig. Like, I don't know.
Who are some of the other reviewers on Base Notes, written reviewers?
Who were some of the? I'm sorry. Who were
Some of your favorite reviewers.
favorites? There's one, and I can't remember his name, but if I go on the website, let me see. I don't remember his name, but I remember his reviews, and his reviews are fucking awesome. I'm just going to it now. I think he's one of the most prolific reviewers as well. So I don't know if it shows like a list of like the most.
Hang on, are there any Bass Note reviewers watching right now? If so, let us know. Like, shout yourself out.
I think he's Italian, and he has
Colin Maillard.
No, I'm trying to think of a clever way to look up his name. I like Bass Notes as a site, but it isn't really the most user-friendly interface. I hope nobody gets offended by, like, Fragrantica. I have a lot of other issues with that.
Darvin's a good one too. Yeah, I agree. What's up,
Darvin,
David?
Yeah. He's good.
There is one that I really like, and he is Italian, and he hasn't reviewed in years. He's just kind of disappeared. I'm wondering if it's the same person.
Right.
It was a dude.
A Dutch painting for an avatar.
It's not Colin. I'm gonna have a quick look too.
Phooey.
But I find Bass Notes is really slow on my end, much slower than most other servers.
I feel like there's less of like an agenda on there, so I feel a little bit more comfortable there. But I started on Fragrantica, like I have my reviews on there. I should just I should just copy all of them to Bass Notes because I don't have any of them on there. I have like 350 on Fragrantica right now. And some folks have told me, like, you should go over to Bass Notes because Fragrantica is allegedly A, B, and C. I'm not going to mention what, like, I don't know if, like, I want to just, like, quit Fragrantica because, like, there's a lot of great people I know who write for it as well.
Yeah.
I think it is Darvon, actually. I think that's his name. Fragrantica is communism. Yes. All right. I guess I'll just let the chat do all the shit talking for me. I don't want to be the one to say anything because
it's probably better not to go there because you're opening up another can of
right. I don't want to, like, that's what I'm saying is hearsay. It's not anything I personally believe in. It's just things that have been said to me. And like, unless I have enough evidence, unless I have enough proof, I don't come to conclusions. So that's just how I operate.
Ramsey says the guy with the red dragon, and that might be the scented devil who we were just shouting out a few moments ago.
That is the scented devil. He has the sort of anthropomorphized dragon. Yeah. Somebody received Halston Z14. Now, I'm not too hung up on the whole reformulation thing. There are definitely some examples where reformulation has really compromised a fragrance. And I do think that the Halston fragrances are examples of that. They've really been destroyed by reformulations.
That's one of Tom Ford's favorite fragrances.
Z14, yeah.
Some of the Halstons.
And he also loves Pour un Homme de Caron. That's one of his favorites as well.
Do you think it could have been an inspiration for Beau de Jour?
It could have been partly that and partly Zeno because of there's definitely this Michel Amarac accord that's in Zeno that is in that Beau de Jour. So it was heavenly. It was heavily an inspiration for Beau de Jour, I think.
There's a guy named Kane on Bass Notes that I really liked. Kane and Alpha Rom.
Who's that?
The guy named Alpha Rom. He has he hasn't reviewed in a while.
Sounds like my username on Fragrantica. I use Alpha Iron for the Orris molecule, the iris molecule, alpha iron. So it's a very large molecule. It's really like the most substantive and most expensive molecule, and you can get it pure as a synthetic, but that's really what gives orris root its smell is alpha iron. How do you feel about iris? I think you're a fan of iris, right? Iris or orris root?
I love ours. I love
Mm,
iris.
yeah,
I'm a big fan, and I love how complex iris can. You can do so many things with it. Iris on its own is complex.
it is. A lot like a lot of other natural materials. It really is like this perfume in itself, and it's really like mysterious smelling. It's like something like that could come from grow under the ground and have such a rich scent to it. It's pretty remarkable stuff.
Do you like elitist reviewers?
Do I like elitist reviewers?
Right.
No, because I don't really like elitism, but I hope people don't think I'm an elitist. I try to have a sense.
I'm not. No, I wasn't saying that at
Oh,
all.
no, I know you weren't saying that, but like, um, no, people who are like, "Ooh, it's a shell of its former self," yeah, like blow it out your ass. Like, people who are like the gatekeepers, the ones who are, you know, they think that they have superior taste, and anyone who disagrees with them has inferior taste. They know which way is up, and if somebody doesn't agree with them, then they're down. Um, Vintage snobs
You
I
got a
can't
lot
deal
of
with.
forest lovers. Yeah, vintage snobs. I know a few, but they're some of my
I
favorite people.
hate
I'm
vintage
going. Can
snobs.
you
It's
stick
like,
around for a bit, or are you going to stick around for a
yeah,
bit?
I can
I'm going to
stick around
ask
for a
you
bit,
to
sure.
keep the chat company. Guys, ask JJ anything you want. He's very open to any questions you want to ask him, personal or professional. I'm just kidding.
Go
And I'll be
for it.
back in a moment.
Cool. I'll babysit. All right, let's see what everybody's talking about. I have the chat right here in front of me. Iris is a smell of melancholy, unbelievably good. Um, I was about to get a full bell jar of Iris Silver Mist, and when I was ready to, I visited the Serge Lutin website, and it is out of stock, and it has been out of stock for a couple months. And my fear is that it will be permanently out of stock, and I'm hoping that is not the case. And it's the same thing with Sour Scent, which is the other one that I want. I sound like Veruca Salt and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I want it. I want it all. Wait, what were the fighting words, Ramsey? I know I have to bite my tongue sometimes. There are some stock issues. Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah, and I was going to buy directly from the site. La Mer. Well, I have La Mer, and I'm very fortunate to have that one. That one was wonderful study in aldehydes. It's wonderful stuff. Okay, all right. Yeah, so I guess I just have to wait for the exit and then just order after that, I suppose. Jeremy, be nice. I like heliotrope. I love heliotrope. I actually did just a couple of weeks ago a whole series of reviews on heliotrope centered fragrances. I love heliotrope. I love mimosa, hawthorn blossom, anything like that. That's like sort of like almondy or anisic. Great stuff. Yeah, I agree. If they discontinue Sour Scent, La Mer, and Iris Silver Mist, among the three most beautiful fragrances from Serge Lutin, yeah, we can take it to the streets. Celine doesn't even have all the Chanels. Can you? Yeah, I guess we're gonna have to take that up with him when he gets back, right? Do you have anything from Matthew Melig? I do not know. Travel travel atomizers is out of the question. I just need the whole bell jar. Chergui Chergui is was one of the first ones that I fell in love with years ago. So I was just about to tell folks here, Eugene, that my first introduction to Serge Lutin, I walked into a Barney's in Boston, and Barney's was not a usual department store for me to visit. If you can imagine, I never really had the budget for buying apparel at Barney's or anything like that. But I went in there because somebody told me that they had great fragrances. So I explored the fragrance section of Barney's, and that's how, I think it was back in 2007 or 2008, I learned about Serge Lutin for the first time, and Frederic Malle, a couple of others. That was my introduction to niche. That was like 2007, long time ago. And I walked out of there with samples of Ambre Sultan, Chergui, Cèdre, and Arabi. Licorice notes like anise, mugwort, wormwood. Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
I heard you guys talking about Iris Silver Mist.
Yes.
And I'll never forget the moment this stuff first hit my nose. I was in a moving truck. I was moving that day. I was in the huge U-Haul with Christo. Christo was helping me move. And he gets in the truck and he's like, dude, I got these fragrant. You got to smell these fragrances. And inside this, he pulls out this bag, and Iris Silver Mist was one of them. I think Mona de Oreo was another. So those were two fragrances I smelled for the first time then. And I smelled Iris Silver Mist, and I was like, holy fuck. Like, I need to have this. Like, I need this. I was just like completely blown away. It was just so like mental.
It's like psychedelic Iris. It's like Iris in every representation altogether. I think that actually, and I think it was Maurice Roussel. He used nearly every type of Iris material possible in that to just be Iris to the nth degree.
Yeah.
It is really a
These are beautiful. These are, yeah, they're beautiful and practical, and that's 30 ml.
Yeah.
I think they're 30 ml. But I remember reading a story of when they were creating this, and Serge just kept telling them more Iris, more Iris. Like whatever Roussel came back to him, he's like, more Iris, like just more overloaded Iris.
There is one type of aroma chem called Irrival, and I have some of it that it's part of my perfumer's organ from when I've been dabbling with blending, and I recognized it immediately from Iris Silver Mist, and it's just so it is like the perfect name for the fragrance. In the wise word of Christo.
That's right. I think we were talking about Tommy Hilfiger or something. Tommy Hilfiger perfumes, and Crystal said, if I can afford your clothes, like if I can afford Tommy Hilfiger, your perfumes are probably shit. I remember him saying that. That's right.
He makes a good point with that one, right?
Yeah. And he was like, he'll look you dead in the eye and he'll say it without flinching, regardless of if you wear Tommy Hilfiger or not.
That's hilarious.
I also heard you talking about almonds.
Oh yeah, heliotrope, and apparently not everybody's a fan of heliotrope, which is fine. It is an acquired taste. Saw that Rudy compared it to powdery nuts and violet.
I like almonds, but I don't like when they get that high pitched sweetness.
Like,
I struggle with Guerlain's heliotrope, believe it or not.
Oh, really? Yeah.
There's some, especially when they like overload the almond. I find it really high pitched and screechy and sweet.
A good heliotrope note should really be more about heliotropin, which
soft and powdery.
Soft, powdery, but also like a little bit Play-Doh, like a little bit like warm cherry pie. They're like facets of almond, but not like exceedingly nutty. I actually do get disappointed when something claims to have heliotrope and it's much more almond to me. almond can be a really hit or miss kind of
I
note.
like the buttery almond more than the sharp one. Like
Yeah.
I find it's either or, but Celine, I've been talking about Celine. They've done a really good heliotrope. And I don't have my sample here, but it is in the perfume called Saint Germain des Prés, and
Mm.
it's gorgeous. And it's so powdery and floral and green. It's beautiful. It's like just melts in my mouth, literally.
Mm.
I love it.
I love the idea of that. I still would like to sample, but I was told that it could be kind of difficult for me to get samples.
Yeah, they're kind of a pain in the ass. What they do is if you buy a fragrance, they'll send you a sample of that fragrance in case you don't like it. And if you don't like it, you can return it.
Hmm.
But powder is like they're all about powder.
Yeah, yeah. And I am a fan of the powdery and
I
slightly.
love powder.
Yeah.
I love that nuance.
I was mentioning earlier in the chat before I joined, when you still had Galen on, that the ultimate powder fragrance is Lorenzo Villoresi Tantanege. It is like powder amplified.
That's okay. Is it iris?
It is. I don't know if it's an iris note, but it is. It's just. I think powder is actually a note in it. Um, it's just a. It's really like a diffusive, luminous kind of powdery scent. It's almost too feminine for me to wear, and not like I have a problem wearing things that are slightly feminine, but just to smell it as an experience. Lacree is great. Denby was Fosco and Denby are discussing Lacree by Parfum d'Empire.
Never tried it.
Yeah, it's another great one.
Denby's saying Iris Nazarena, and there's one I was willing to
Yeah.
blind buy in wood if it like it's been hyped to death, and I would blind buy it if I ever came across a bottle somewhere. But
Yeah.
there's a discount shop by me that carries. They've got the whole range except for that one. I'm like, damn, like that's the one I want. That's the one I'm willing to blind buy. I don't know the rest of them if I would, but
Yeah.
because I love Iris, I'd purchase that one
Well,
without smelling it.
you could actually, instead of blind buying it, if it isn't too difficult, Adis de Venustus has a shop and they have an online website. So I think that I'm not sure if you could just order samples, but say if you do order something from there, you can request samples, and then that way you can sample it before
You
you.
still got to buy something. Can you just buy a sample set? That's what I should do.
Thing like I've only ever gotten samples because I've actually bought something. I would just visit the website and see if you could buy samples.
Let's go here. Are you familiar with Goldman? Amouage.
Baby powder in my daughter's diaper bag. I actually am not. I'm actually pretty ignorant when it comes to Amouage. Like I've tried a couple of Amouage, but I'm pretty naive about Amouage. There is that one that is very oregano heavy that I find intriguing, but almost a little off-putting. I don't know which one that is, but it's very herbal in the top note. An Epic Man I can appreciate too. I don't have a full bottle of it, but
Here's a guy I haven't seen in a while. Rome. What's up, buddy? He smells like Rome. He's another YouTuber. Good to see you here. But I'm not familiar with any Bodicea.
Yeah, nor am I. I know exactly what the bottles look like. They have those round bottles, very intricate, very detailed. But it's beautiful and powdery. Maybe we should try it. People are talking about diapers.
Goldman. So Goldman, to me, without trying to be rude, or if you've got kids in the room, you might want to put me on mute. But Goldman to me smells like a dirty dick, all right, that you've just poured honey all over and then dumped it in the bag of powder, baby powder.
That could be appealing to a certain audience. I think I might already have that covered somewhere in my collection now.
But see, people love it. It's really dirty. I remember I had a decant of Goldman, not a decant, but official Amouage sampler, and I was like, this stuff's so. it's so heavenly bad, right? And I had a decant, and I sprayed myself for my scent of the day, and I took the rest of it, and I went behind a coworker while he wasn't like watching, and I sprayed it all over him just to get his reaction.
Oh
And that
god.
was many years ago.
I have a feeling I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Ramsey says oddly specific.
Hmm.
No, it's not something that I've done, but that's what it would remind me of if
Hmm.
I would do that, Ramsey.
Yeah, just give me all the powder that you can give me. Powder, honey. I love honey. I like it when it gets a little dirty and animalic too. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the current bottles are, but I'm sure the vintage is the shiz.
I can even appreciate, I'm doing some packing of my collection, and I can even appreciate something more modern like Cartier L'Envol. I think that's a nice,
I
nice.
like Lombard too. I don't wear it very often, but I do like it.
It's like a nice sheer honey. Like it's not often that you have like that honey that is kind of translucent. Like it's really pretty. I like that.
Honey, I shrunk the.
Circumcised or uncircumcised? How
I
dare
don't
you?
think it matters.
Very personal question to ask.
I
Very,
don't think it matters.
yeah. Blanville's a good one. Good one from Cartier. Another good one, Le Basset de Daglan, is another good one from Cartier. It's very well done. Not too expensive. It's quite lovely.
Nice. We're at 76 viewers and almost 3 hours in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, if we kept going, people would be here. But there comes a time where.
But there comes a time where you just kind of run out of fumes, like you get tired. It's like 10 o'clock here. You're in the same time zone as me, right?
I'm Eastern Standard. I'm at 10:06 p.m.
It's bedtime. My partner's probably getting annoyed at this point. I'm usually watching TV with him.
Lick the stream, lick the cream, whatever you prefer, but lick it before you go.
Rather salacious discussion on here. All this talk of uncircumcised penises and licking cream and everything. Okay.
Boys will be boys, and we get a little bit raunchy. So I mean, we got to change it up, right? We got to change it up.
Right. Santos is great from Cartier. Yeah, the Santos.
I love Santos. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great 80s release for sure. That's in sort of like that same sort of family as like Antaeus.
I think my favorite Cartier might be Declaration, though.
Oh yeah.
There's something about that dryness. The dryness is kind of challenging. It gets pasty, right? It's like you need a glass of water.
Yeah.
It's a combination of that dryness, the spices, the woods. It's like it's heavenly. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
Right.
There is definitely that astringency to it. It always makes me feel like not only like a thirsty feeling, but a feeling of kind of like yearning. Not that the fragrance is not giving enough; it's giving enough, but it just sort of like, like, yeah, it's definitely like this.
Even the packaging is stellar, right? Like, look at that.
It's a very well done.
Yeah, like this was supposed to be. This is inspired by their wristwatch. The wind part of the watch, where you.
Yeah.
What's that called?
Declaration Perfume is very good too. Yeah.
It's much heavier, right? It's
much heavier. It's really dense.
I prefer this. Much prefer this if I had to choose. But I do have the Parfum as well.
There's this ongoing joke I guess here. Have you bought tortillas yet? Have you bought taquitos yet? I think this is just all hung over from
Iquitos.
Yeah. Dial. I love the smell of dial. Oh, he's talking about the dial on a watch. He was helping you out with that. But can we talk about dial, like the soap? Like, I don't know what it is about Dial soap. It smells like a really good kind of like florally musky smell. And I never really even thought about it. I'm like, Dial, it's kind of like a very mainstream kind of, soap that you have at home. But Gold Dial, that's a classic smell. Kind of reminds me of Kiehl's Musk.
I think I got to start getting into like luxury soap or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, so one of my favorite houses, actually, you were
I
asking
love
me about
this.
favorite.
It's got a freshness quality to it, like a nice citrus top, right?
Yeah.
A nice citrus pop to counter that dry woods.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's definitely inspired by Eau de Mez in that respect, because you have that citrus that is contrasting with, the dirtier leathery qualities and the caraway or whatever spices, cumin. What was I going to say though? Oh, niche houses. One of my other favorites, very old house, Italy. And it's my favorite Italian house, Santa Maria Novella. And if you want to try quality soaps, they have soap versions of each of their fragrances. And the soaps they just smell like wonderful soap versions of each of their scents. It's wonderful stuff.
Great perfume, Santa Maria, but they're very light.
Very light. You think they're light? Which
Yeah, my experience with them was they're very white, light and watery.
interesting. Which one?
Aren't they eau de colognes? Maybe I've just tried the eau de colognes. Do they have an eau de cologne range?
I mean, I never even really noticed the so-called concentration, but a lot of my favorites are pretty. They have legs. They're pretty substantive. I mean, the patchouli, Pot d'Espagne. I mean, that can last for hours. Trying to think. Oh, I'm going to be reviewing it tomorrow, actually, on my Instagram for Tobacco Week. Aqua de Cuba. Aqua de Cuba. I could apply that in the morning, and I can still smell that on my skin, like after a shower at night. That one is, talk about cojones. I mean, that has like a really significant honey note in it. So yeah, a lot of the ones that I love, I don't really have performance issues with it. But you could be thinking of maybe some of the lighter stuff, like Cologne Russa, I think.
I can't remember which one. Which one? It's been many years since I've tried them.
Yeah, yeah.
Later,
Yeah,
Bosco. Thanks for being here. We'll see you again.
Tobacco Toscano is a bit lighter. Jonathan, you are right. Tobacco Toscano is very much, it does feel more like an EDC for sure. But they have some really impressive meaty fragrances, like what's the other one? Marasiala, Potpourri. The herbal melange thing that's going on, like very old world, really intriguing stuff. Like definitely from another time. It's like stepping into another age. But I love wearing them. Oh, Melagrano. Melagrano is gorgeous. That is like a wonderful 60 sheep. Really great
I
stuff.
love Chypres.
Melagrana means pomegranate, but there isn't really a pomegranate note in it that we would we would associate with pomegranate. Lovely soapy sheep.
Would you consider Chypre your favorite genre?
My favorite, like kind of like a family of fragrances.
Yeah.
Sheeps, fougères, aromatics, incenses, green.
Everything, as long as it's perfume, it sounds
I
like.
know, I'm like pretty much covered like 95% of it right there. Green scents, I love. I know like not everybody can handle it, but oh, love it. And all different shades of green too, like green ivy or green galbanum.
Do you like bitter? Bitter green?
Yeah, bitter green, definitely.
What about vegetal green?
Vegetal too. Like anything that has a certain sort of like raw naturalism in it.
Look, nobody could ever call you an elitist. You like everything.
Yeah, I can't. There are things that I find a little bit more challenging, though. So if people would like to know the things that I don't warm up to as much, I have a tougher time with gourmands. I find that gourmands need something to pull it in a direction that isn't so edible smelling in order for me to enjoy it.
Yeah,
it has to be perfumey, not edible smelling. And people love that to death. I mean, on Instagram, everybody's talking about how much they love gourmands. They love the vanilla and the caramel and the tonka and it's better. And it's just not, it doesn't really suit my fancy. Ouds, I'm temperamental about oud. Oud has to really be done in a very cohesive way in a fragrance. And quality materials count. Otherwise,
Right. How do you feel about Montal ouds?
the only one that I appreciate is the one that doesn't really smell as oody, and it's Oud Queer d'Arabi.
Yeah, again, that's a very heavy perfume.
But it's, for some reason, I just like, I like how brazen it is. I just love how it's just such a it's just that opening is so like outrageous.
I'm not a fan of that style of fragrance, the aggressiveness,
That,
the
yeah, and
it's,
that
it's
most
bordering obsessive, like obnoxious, obsessively obnoxious.
most of it is. Most of it I can't stand. Most Montal, most Mancera. None of it is really nuanced.
Dude, my supervisor wears a Mancera, and he's the nicest guy ever, and I would never say anything, but his fragrance is everywhere. Like wherever I turn, like even though he's not there, his perfume is. I'm like, what?
Mm,
Like I'll go into a room where he was 20 minutes earlier,
yeah,
and the lingering scent overtakes whatever I'm wearing.
yeah,
It's really tenacious, like just like
yeah. It's an assault on the senses. I find a lot of them to be absolutely hideous. So there you have it, folks. Hopefully there aren't too many Mancera.
James, that's actually what he wears is Hindu Kush. And it's so loud and
Yeah.
abrasive. It smells like gasoline. It must have some kind of birch tar, violet leaf. I don't know.
There's definitely like some ambrosinite.
But I think there's like a marijuana note in Hindu Kush. Maybe
Oh,
that might be what it is.
yeah. So that's not really like not really my kind of stuff. That stuff that's, I just like Oud Queer d'Arabi. That's like my reference fragrance, not the one like I'm wearing all the time, just because it's so over the top. And the only other one I have is Full Incense, which I think is a pretty well done incense. What is this? Wait, I sprayed Montals around the neighborhood to keep real estate prices down.
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh man.
definitely a form of chemical warfare. It's unfortunate how some of them are just like some of like the rose is like, it smells so bad. Oh my god! You know, another one that really is
Like their rose ouds smell like funeral parlor.
yeah, like a funeral parlor after like a nuclear fallout though. Like it's just like, it smells like a meltdown. It smells like
Chernobyl.
seriously. Yeah, and then like Creed Love and White I think is just absolutely barbaric. I hate like that like screech.
Creed?
Yeah.
I've never met a Creed that is barbaric or obnoxious like that. I always found them really mild mannered.
Love and White. I mean, maybe it's been changed.
I've never met that one though. But I mean, for the most part, they're clean and fresh, soapy scents, aren't they? Like that's their aesthetic.
No, this one is like a bitch. Attitude. Like,
you know, I gotta say, for a classic, I hate Fracas. Like hate it passionately.
yeah, I mean, I can understand.
It turns my stomach. It feels like I've like drank a quart of castor oil or something.
Yeah,
it's like gut wrenching.
That's the kind that wears you. You're not wearing it.
It's so damn heavy and obnoxious. That white floral accord.
Yeah, that's not a favorite of mine. Although I do enjoy tuberose. But
so do I. But perfumistas swear by Fracas, and you're not even considered a pure perfumista unless you love it.
Oh, they can blow it out their ass. I don't really like it.
Yeah.
No, seriously, because it's like, you know, it's a matter of taste. Like I think it's really too much. It's way too much. But Robert Piguet has a few other releases that I think are quite nice. I like Bagari, which is like,
that's the incense, right?
No, that's great too. Casbah. Bagari is like orange crush flavored Chanel No. 5, but better. Yeah, Bandit.
I gotta be honest, I don't love it, and I feel like I should like.
Because you got that bottle. Now I'm going to be one of those snobs.
All right, give it to me. Give it to me.
So, um, you want to look out for a bottle that has a gold cap.
A gold
That
cap.
would be kind of like the sweet spot where you can still afford it, somewhat afford it, because it's not super old vintage, but it is still true to the Germain Cellier composition. It hasn't been completely done over.
Are you familiar with Gucci Nobile?
I have to tell you the truth. I have not smelled it. Maybe I had smelled it in the past because it was everywhere at one point. Um, but I'm not familiar enough with it, and it's just not one of those where I'm like, oh, I have to get myself a bottle because everybody's talking about how fabulous it is. I'm not really I mean, if somebody wants to give me a sample, I'll sample it. Do you have it?
I don't, but I ran across a bottle sitting on a shelf at a discount shop a few days ago. And I was like, I've heard so much about this, but I've never tried it.
Well, if you find it and it's the price is right, just get it, because that's the one thing keeping me from getting it is that if you look online, it's always like 200 something bucks. Surely if I
Yeah.
found it for like, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks, I'd be like, yeah, maybe I'll get it now. But it's
So
just become a unicorn.
James is asking what the frick is fracas, and it's like the biggest, boldest, baddest, literally baddest white floral around. I
It's
think it was, when Frederick Malle did Carnal Flower, I think they were kind of dissecting fracas a little bit.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like a
But
deconstruction of that idea. Yeah.
Carnal Flower is completely wearable and it's easy going. It's nothing compared to um fracas. Gucci Noble is dangerously close to Drakkar.
I could see that. It was Gucci's answer to Drakkar. I mean, there were a lot of answers to Drakkar. Like Drakkar Noir was so immensely successful that everybody had to jump on the bandwagon. So a lot of these, 80s vintage, zealots love a lot of them, but not many of them smell too dissimilar to Drakkar Noir. Yeah, that's a controversial opinion. I'm sure somebody's going to want to like drag me over the coals for saying that, but it's true. Like a lot of them just, there's some that are better than Drakkar Noir. Like they took the idea of Drakkar Noir and they improved upon it. And those are the ones I really like. And I'm trying to think of one. What is the one that I got recently where I'm like, yeah, this is the way I wanted Drakkar Noir to smell like. I'll have to get back to everyone on that. People are talking about some other Gucci's. I don't know. There's not too many Gucci's that are like.
Gucci's really been shitting the bed lately. I mean, in the last 10 years. The newer stuff is okay, the exclusive stuff. I like it.
Oh, all right. It just came to my mind. I just interviewed it recently. So Pierre Cardin, Enigma. Enigma came out in 1992. It was like 10 years after Drakkar Noir, and I feel like it was several years too late, but it was an improvement on the idea.
Pierre Cardin is a
Enigma, Enigme, and the bottle. I don't know if you saw the post from a couple weeks ago. It is sort of like the shape of like a trilobite or like a horseshoe crab. It's actually some type of fencing mask, I think it's like a Japanese mask. Very distinct bottle, iconic looking. And I feel like that was like sort of like the zenith of that style. But by the time it was 1992, people were like, peace out to that. They were all into like, aquatics at that point. So it wasn't commercially successful. Oh, that's awesome. Jonathan in the chat got the Enigma and he loves it.
Speedwolf says Carnal Flower is possibly the most perfect floral fragrance ever made. I find a lot of white florals could be challenging and overwhelming, and some are even gut wrenching. But I don't find that at all with Carnal Flower, and I think it's really nicely balanced with other white florals, with this coconut thing going on.
Yeah,
it does have a kind of a tropical thing.
Yeah.
It's very meaty, and it has this really beautiful way of breathing on skin.
Mm-hmm.
I got a great comment once while I was wearing Carnal Flower, and somebody came over and said, "You smell rich, like a rich person." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what they associate like rich people smelling like."
It's called opulence.
Mm.
Opulent floral makes you smell wealthy. Yeah, the tuberose often has like a lot of lactones, and that's why you get like that coconutty effect in a lot of tuberose fragrances.
Mm.
Vintage Georison, oh yeah, yeah. I do love. It was mentioned earlier. I think Galen was mentioning Diarella. That's a great one. I love that kind of like almost like over-ripened fruit, kind of over-ripened melon kind of smell. That's kind of wild. And that was so like so ahead of its time to even consider having a melon note. I mean, we're talking about like the 70s.
Then be having some regrets. Then be stop thinking about her. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Maybe it was meant to be. Everything happens for a reason. I believe that.
Everything's a potential lesson. Like even
Everything is a lesson. There are no mistakes.
right,
Unless you don't learn anything from the mistake. Then
right,
it's truly a mistake. Then it's a fuck up.
right. Luca Turin says Diarella smells like a fish market.
I've not heard that.
I didn't see that review from my newly acquired books. I should look up the Diarella review. Fish market.
I got to check now for myself.
Yeah. What about the Parfum de Torres, Frederick Malle?
Oh, the Frederick Malle?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about it?
I haven't smelled it actually.
I think it's great.
And I know that was one that was one of the earliest releases. So all that time that I was like visiting like the counter, I think they always discouraged me. They didn't even like suggest it because obviously, it was for women. So like I never even like thought to open up the bottle to smell it.
But you should know women's perfumes are much better than men's, right?
Generally they are. And I try to tell people that throughout the history of fragrance, most of the best fragrances were marketed to women.
Why can't I find it? Oh, here it is. Another big plum. I get the feeling that Odnitska liked plum.
Yeah.
But it has that aldehydic melon in the top. When I first discovered Jiki, I got halitosis from it. Like it was this nasty combination. And then, that perception eventually goes away and you discover the beauty behind it. And when I first tried Parfum de Trace, I got the same feeling, like halitosis. And it was a combination of, aldehydes and melon, I guess. I was like, oh, interesting. But it is very gorgeous. It's really soft and melancholy.
Well, I like things that are soft and melancholy. I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to things that are wistful.
It's got leather and plum and melon, almost like a watermelon, a really soft melon.
Interesting.
It's gorgeous. Somebody asking me, what is my signature? Where did I see that? I don't have honestly, I don't have a signature.
I
think it'd be really cool to have a signature, but I just can't go there.
I don't know. I think a signature scent would be for somebody who has like more of like a small rotation. And I think when you're at this level where you have so many fragrances that you appreciate and own, you can't really have a signature because you don't ever wear it often enough for it to become a signature. Probably the closest thing to a signature I would have just based on my time wearing fragrance would be Abbey Rouge, because I got a bottle of Abbey Rouge years and years ago, and it was one of my regular wears, and it still holds a very large place in my heart today. But it's not like I'm wearing it like once a week. You know, like I'm not wearing anything once a week. I can't.
Yeah.
There's no way I can rotate.
If, would it be possible for you to come up with something you think you would love, like a couple of pieces to
That
be your signature?
to be a signature, I mean, it would depend on my mood or the time of year or time of my life, the state of mind that I'm in. I could think of a few of them. Uh, I mean, I actually do think that Le Troisième, Third Man, would be one of them. One that isn't really spoken about heavily, which is a very unique composition from Oritza et la Grande, Sheeple Mousse, because it smells.
Oh, yeah, I've heard so much about that.
It's just otherworldly. That's the only thing that I can say this late at night when it's time, is that it's otherworldly. It's just enchanting. There's a beautiful, like, there's like a mushroom note in it, which may sound kind of bizarre, but it makes sense. It really does smell like.
I like iris when it goes mushroomy, fungal.
Yeah, that could be kind of nice. Yeah.
And I find that Chanel does that the best.
Yeah. That's really cool.
I don't know. If I had to pick really quickly, I would say something like Chanel Boy, maybe even Cristal. Looking at Hermes, Rocabar.
Yeah.
Rocabar. I want it to be something softer and not aggressive, not punchy.
Yeah.
It's going to be something Dior Homme, maybe.
Another one that really just enchanted me when I first smelled it is it's probably going to be a surprise that some people are familiar with it, but L'Aetherealist by Miller Harris. L'Aetherealist, which is this labdanum costus. It's ambery. It's very animalic. It's very your skin, but better. It's very very sebaceous. It's a very unusual smelling fragrance, but it also kind of reminds me of like old books with like cracking like a cracking binding, like with yellowed pages. It's wild.
I love that. I love churchy perfumes that remind me of old books and pews, dry pews, and incense and wood. And I love that.
So Paroli asked, JJ, is this Sheeple Mousse available now? Still worth picking up?
That was heavily hyped for the longest time, and then it just went silent.
Who knows why? I mean, I think it's worth picking up. I got a recent bottle of it, and it still smells gorgeous. Yeah. I don't think Oritza et la Grande is really messing around with its compositions much. Like, I don't think there's like, oh, we got to do another reformulation. I think they've been pretty consistent. That's a house that's, you know, that was like one of those resurrected houses. Like even the packaging, the bottles, or like they look like they're from the early 20th century. And I have 4 of them that I love. Like there's another one called Relique d'Amour, which I think I talked about with you a while back when you were on one of my lives. That's the one that just smells like the morning after a rain when you're outside of like this like stone cathedral. It's just awe-inspiring stuff. And yeah, there's not much hype about any of them really. I think that people think it's, oh, this is like a novelty antique house.
That would be kind of your style. You don't really talk about a lot of things that get hyped or mentioned or noticed. You just kind of have your own.
I just have my own
way, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, some of it does kind of overlap into hype. Some of it does. Like Le Lion was really hyped, and I really like Le Lion.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a very, very good release.
Are there any other Chanels that you like?
Of course, I like Eclat Russie and Coromandel. Number 19. I am planning on getting a bottle of number 22.
Mm.
Love the aldehydes in that. What
Are there
else?
any you don't like?
Are there any that I don't like? I don't, honestly, with Chanel, I don't think there's anything that I've disliked.
It's hard to miss with Chanel unless it's like the new stuff. I mean, I'm going like Bleu, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Bleu is still good. I mean, I wouldn't wear it. It's still good. I wouldn't wear it just because it's not exciting to me, but objectively speaking, I can assess a fragrance and identify if it's well done. It's
Mm.
well done.
Well done, yeah. I don't think I understand it properly, or if there really is anything to understand.
I don't think it's meant to be understood. I think it's meant to be sold. I think that's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
utilitarian release of theirs. Yes, the current Lair de Rien is just as good. They did not mess with Lair de Rien. It is still it smells just as spectacular as it ever has, which is wonderful. Thank goodness for Costas Replacer. It smells just like Costas. I don't even know if it ever had real Costas. I think Costas was already banned by the time it was released. Maybe I'm wrong. Liliana is so Shalimar. What's the point?
Why not have both?
Why not? I mean, why not have like a variation on a theme? I have so many variations on a theme. I'm not going to
Yeah,
pretend.
aren't all 80s masculines Sheepras? Like, aren't they all? You smell one, you smell.
I was just mentioning earlier, I have like 12 different versions of Dracula Noir.
Right. If we're gonna go there, let's go there.
You know.
Right.
So that's the thing. Like, something may smell similar to something else in abstract when you're just smelling it in passing, but you smell it a few more times and you realize, okay, there's some variations to this. Some things do smell so similar that it's redundant, but I don't think that Lilian is redundant. I don't think it's redundant. I don't think it's just Shalimar again.
That's like somebody owning all blue fragrances. Like, to me, it's like, what's the point?
But to them, they may notice all those nuances and differences, and
right. I'm sure there are. I just don't care enough to give a shit.
puts a tiger in their tank, and all the power to them.
Number 22 is number 5, Gone Marshmallows to me. I do love it. And I've always seen the similarity and the connection between 22, 5, and Bois d'Azil. They share a lot. That sandalwood, the pastels.
Yeah, that's where I disagree with Rudy as far as taste, but he's not wrong and I'm not right. But I love the vanillin that's in Shalimar, and I love a lot of the Guerlain. I love Guerlain because it has the vanillin and it has the heliotropin and it has the patchouli with that, and yeah, I do love all of that. So it is almost 10:40, so I think it is time for me to bid adieu. But thank you so much for letting me jump on.
Thank you so much, JJ. It seems like the chat has enjoyed this. We still got 63 people. So thank you, chat, for sticking around and making this what it is. We appreciate you. Be sure to check out JJ on Instagram. He'll be with Persolet on Sunday night. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, JJ Colborn. It's actually going to be in the morning Eastern Standard Time. So that will be 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I have another guest who I'm excited to have join me. Her name is Dahlia, the Perfume Dahlia. She's done some collaborations with Sebastian. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're all familiar with her. I like Dahlia.
I like her a lot too.
Great
She'll
taste.
be the week after that. So, all right. Well, nighty-night, everyone. Signing off.
JJ, it's been a pleasure. Chat. I'm out too. It's like 10:30, 10:40, JJ just said. So thanks for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.